Welcome, dear traveler, to Mythborn. The day is behind you now. Whatever burdens you've been carrying, whatever thoughts have been racing through your mind, you can leave them at the edge of tonight's fire. For the next little while, there is nowhere else you need to be. Take a slow, comfortable breath. Feel the weight of your body settle. Let your mind become quiet, as though the world itself has begun to whisper. Now, close your eyes if you'd like, and imagine an ancient island surrounded by an endless sea. Moonlight shimmers across gentle waves. Tall cypress trees sway softly in the night breeze. Far in the distance, a lonely palace stands atop weathered cliffs, its marble walls glowing beneath the stars. Somewhere below, hidden deep beneath that palace, lies a place no one willingly enters. A maze so vast that even its builders feared becoming lost. Stone corridors twisting without end. Silent passageways where every footstep echoes through the darkness. And at its heart, a creature the world has spoken of for more than 3,000 years. Half man, half bull, a monster some would say. A victim others would argue. But legends are rarely as simple as they first appear. Tonight, we will walk those forgotten corridors together, not to hunt the beast, but to understand how it came to exist. We'll uncover the choices of kings, the pride of gods, the secrets of queens, and the tragic fate of a soul born into a destiny it never chose. So let the fire warm your imagination. Let the ancient world slowly unfold around you. And as the stars shine over the island of Crete, our journey into one of mythology's greatest mysteries begins now. The complete story of the Minotaur. A sleep story. Chapter 1. The Bull from the Sea. Part 1. The Shadow of the Horns. Before there was a monster in the maze, before Athens wept for its children, before the hero Theseus sailed into the darkness of the Labyrinth, there was a king who sought to prove his divine right to rule, a king who made a promise to the god of the sea, and a king who broke that promise. This act of hubris, of prideful defiance, would not only bring ruin upon his house, but would also give birth to one of the most enduring and terrifying creatures in all of mythology. The Minotaur, the bull of Minos, was not born in a vacuum. He was born from a curse, from a crime, and from a passion so unnatural that it defied the very order of the world. To understand the monster, you must first understand the tragedy that created him. The story of the Minotaur is a story of consequences. It is a tale of how the arrogance of a king can echo down through the generations, shaping the fates of heroes and nations. It is a myth that speaks to the dangers of pride, the horror of forbidden desire, and the ultimate triumph of courage and love over darkness and terror. It is a story that has been told for over 3,000 years, a story that has inspired artists, poets, and storytellers across the ages. And like all great myths, it is a story that reveals the deepest truths about the human condition, our capacity for cruelty, our hunger for power, and our boundless hope for redemption. The island of Crete, the cradle of this myth, was a place of great power and mystery. Its palaces were said to be so complex, so labyrinthine in their construction, that they were a maze to any who entered. Its people were known for their mastery of the sea, their wealth, and their worship of the bull, a creature of immense strength and virility. It was in this world, a world of kings and gods, of palaces and monsters, that the story of the Minotaur began. And its beginning was not with a hero, but with a god's rage. But this was only the beginning. The greatest horror was still waiting to be born, hidden in the darkness of a labyrinth that would become a prison for the soul of a family. Part 2. Historical and cultural background. To understand the Minotaur, we must first understand the world that created him. The myth is deeply rooted in the history, geography, and culture of the ancient Aegean. the Minoan civilization and the palace of Knossos. The story of King Minos and his palace at Knossos is not entirely a work of pure fiction. It was inspired by a real civilization, the Minoan civilization, which flourished on the island of Crete from approximately 3000 to 1100 BCE. This was a sophisticated and powerful Bronze Age culture, known for its magnificent palaces, advanced art, and extensive trade networks across the Mediterranean. The palace at Knossos, excavated by Sir Arthur Evans in the early 20th century, was a sprawling complex of rooms, corridors, and staircases. Evans, who named the civilization Minoan after the legendary King Minos, was struck by the labyrinthine complexity of the structure. It was easy to get lost in its many chambers, a fact that likely contributed to the myth of the labyrinths built by Daedalus. The ancient Greek word labyrinthos may even be derived from labris, the double-headed axe, a sacred symbol of the Minoan goddess that was found carved into the palace walls. The palace itself was not a maze in the modern sense, but a complex of over 1,300 rooms, which could certainly feel like one to an outsider. The bull cult. The bull was a central figure in Minoan religion and culture. Frescoes found at Knossos depict young men and women engaging in the dangerous sport of bull leaping, where they would vault over the horns of charging bulls. This practice was likely a religious ritual, a display of courage and skill that honored the bull's power. This veneration of the bull is the foundation for the myth of the Minotaur, a creature that is part bull and part man, and for the story of Pasiphae's unnatural passion for the Cretan bull. The historical context of the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur, also reflects a period of political tension between Crete and Athens. The story of Athens being forced to pay tribute to Crete in the form of young men and women to be sacrificed to the beast is believed by some scholars to be a memory of a time when Crete dominated the Aegean and demanded tribute from the mainland. The eventual slaying of the Minotaur by Theseus can be interpreted as a symbolic victory of Athens over Crete, a story that would have been particularly popular during the rise of Athenian power in the 5th century BCE. Part 3. The Kingship of Minos. The story of the Minotaur begins with a struggle for power. Minos was not the first king of Crete. He was one of 3 sons born to the Phoenician princess Europa and Zeus, who had taken the form of a beautiful white bull to seduce her. Europa's husband, King Asterion of Crete, adopted the 3 boys Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon and raised them as his own. The contest for the throne. When Asterion died, the kingdom was without a clear heir. A succession crisis loomed. Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon each had a claim to the throne, and the situation threatened to tear the island apart. Minos, however, had a plan to secure his position. He believed, or perhaps he convinced others, that the gods favored him. He declared that he was destined to rule, and that he could prove it by praying to the gods to grant him a sign, and that the sign would be granted. The prayer to Poseidon Minos, claiming divine right, prayed to Poseidon, the god of the sea, who was also his uncle. He promised that if Poseidon sent him a magnificent bull from the depths of the ocean, he would sacrifice it in the god's honor as a sign of his devotion and his gratitude. Poseidon, pleased by the king's piety and perhaps wishing to show his support, answered the prayer. A spectacular snow-white bull emerged from the sea, its beauty so radiant that it seemed a creature of pure divinity. The bull was a symbol of Poseidon's power, and Minos's claim to the throne was validated. No one could challenge a king who had the favor of such a powerful god. The treachery of Minos. But Minos made a terrible mistake. He looked upon the bull that Poseidon had sent, and was overcome by its beauty. It was too magnificent a creature to be slain and offered to the gods, he thought. Surely Poseidon would accept a lesser sacrifice in its place. This act of hubris, of placing his own desire above his sacred promise to a god, was a profound transgression. Minos kept the white bull for himself, sending a lesser animal to the altar of Poseidon. He hoped the god would not notice or would overlook his deception. But the gods are not so easily deceived, and the sea god's fury was a terrible thing to awaken. Part 4. The Curse of Pasiphae. Poseidon was incensed. Minos had insulted him, broken a sacred vow, and demonstrated the worst kind of arrogance. The god of the sea, known for his tempestuous nature, would not let this slight go unpunished. But rather than direct his wrath at Minos himself, Poseidon devised a punishment that would be far crueler and more intimate. He struck at the king's very household, using the one thing that Minos loved and controlled as the instrument of his suffering: the goddess's intervention. In some versions of the myth, Poseidon acted alone. In others, he enlisted the aid of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and desire, to punish the king. In yet another version, Pasiphae, Minos' wife, had neglected to honor Aphrodite, and the goddess cursed her directly. Regardless of the instigator, the result was the same. Pasiphae, the queen of Crete and a daughter of the sun god Helios, was afflicted with an overwhelming, unnatural, and maddening passion for the beautiful white bull that Poseidon had sent from the sea. The queen's unnatural desire, Pasiphae was a powerful woman, a sorceress like her sister Circe and her niece Medea. But no amount of power or wisdom could shield her from a curse placed by a god. The passion she felt for the bull was not merely lust, it was a divine madness that consumed her every thought. She could think of nothing else, desire nothing else. The myth does not shy away from the horror of this. It is presented as a perversion, a monstrous desire that defied nature itself. Her love for the beast was a punishment, and it would lead to the birth of a monster. Have 5, the wooden cow. Driven to madness by her unnatural passion, Queen Pasiphae could not contain her desires. She needed to be with the bull to consummate this forbidden love. She had no hope of seducing the animal, so she knew she would need help to achieve her goal. And on the island of Crete, there was only one man who could help her achieve the impossible. Daedalus, the master craftsman Daedalus, was a genius, an inventor, an architect, and a sculptor. He was a man whose mind worked in ways that other mortals could not comprehend. He had come to Crete seeking refuge or opportunity, and his skills were renowned throughout the Greek world. When the desperate queen came to him with her request, he was bound by fear and a spirit of invention to comply. Minos was a powerful king, and what a king's wife desires, no one dares refuse. The construction Daedalus listened to the queen's story. He knew that to help her would be to commit a terrible crime, but he was also fascinated by the technical challenge she presented. He would need to build a contraption that would allow a woman to mate with a bull without the animal being alarmed by the presence of a human. He devised a plan to build a hollow wooden cow. It would be crafted with such skill that it would look and feel exactly like a real cow. He covered it with the hide of a real cow and placed it on wheels. He then painted and carved it so meticulously that it was indistinguishable from the herd. When the magnificent white bull was grazing in its meadow, Daedalus wheeled the hollow wooden cow out into the pasture. He helped the queen climb inside, and there, in the stifling darkness of the false cow, she waited until the bull approached. The animal, deceived by the scent and the appearance of the decoy, mated with it. Thus did Queen Pasiphae give herself to the beast. Part 6. The Birth of Astarion. After her union with the bull, Pasiphae became pregnant. She knew with a mother's certainty that what was growing inside her was no ordinary child. The creature she gave birth to was a horror, a violation of nature, being with the body of a man and the head and tail of a bull. It was the Minotaur. the bull of Minos. The queen, perhaps seeking to give her monstrous child a noble identity, named him Asterion after her husband's stepfather, the former king. But to the people of Crete, he would be known by another name, the name that would echo through history, Minotauros, the bull of Minos. Pasiphae loved her child. She nursed him and cared for him while he was a calf. But as he grew, so did his monstrous nature. He was not a man, and he was not a beast, and he had no place in the world of men. He was by nature a creature of violence and chaos. He developed a taste for human flesh, and soon he was a terror that threatened the royal court. The palace of Knossos, so grand and complex, could no longer contain him. The Labyrinth King Minos, confronted with the monstrous product of his wife's infidelity, was both ashamed and afraid. This abomination could not be allowed to roam free, but he could not bring himself to kill his own wife's child. He consulted the oracle at Delphi for guidance. The oracle advised him to build a prison, a place so complex and confusing that the creature could never escape. Minos turned to Daedalus, the same man who had helped his wife commit her crime. Whether out of fear, guilt, or obligation, Daedalus accepted the task. He set to work, designing a structure that was the opposite of his previous creation. Instead of a deceptive vessel, he would build a cage. He constructed the labyrinth, a maze so vast and intricate that anyone who entered it would be unable to find their way out. It was said to have countless winding passages, dead ends and false turns, all leading to the central chamber where the Minotaur was to be imprisoned. It was a masterpiece of engineering built for a monstrous purpose. Part 7. The Death of Androgeus. The existence of the Minotaur was a stain on the honor of the Cretan royal house, but it was contained. The balance of the Aegeans seemed to hold until another tragedy struck the family of Minos. This time, the victim was his only human son, Androgeos. The Athenian games, Androgeos was a prince of Crete, a man of great skill and athletic prowess. He traveled to Athens to compete in the Panathenaic Games, a festival held in honor of the goddess Athena. He was a fierce and successful competitor, winning victory after victory. But his success was his undoing. King Aegeus of Athens, jealous of the Cretan prince's prowess, saw him as a threat. In some versions, Aegeus had him killed, sending him on a suicide mission to slay the Cretan bull, which had escaped to Marathon. In other versions, Androgeos was simply murdered by the Athenians out of envy. Minos' vengeance. When King Minos learned of his son's death, he was devastated and consumed by rage. He blamed the Athenians. He raised a great fleet and sailed against Athens. The Athenian army was no match for the powerful Cretan forces, and Minos pressed the city hard. The Athenians, their morale broken and their city at his mercy, were forced to sue for peace. The terms of that peace were designed to be a punishment that would ensure Athens never again forgot the death of a king's son. The tribute Minos demanded a tribute. Every 7 or 9 years, the accounts differ. Athens was to send a ship with a black sail, carrying 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete. They were to be the most beautiful and noble youths of the city. Once they arrived, they would be led into the labyrinth, a living sacrifice to the Minotaur. The monster would devour them one by one. The black sails were a symbol of the city's shame and grief. They would return home only if Theseus came. Part 8. The Coming of Theseus. In Athens, the tribute was a source of constant grief and terror. Families would hold their breath, praying that their children would not be chosen in the lottery. The black ship would depart, and the Athenians would be left to mourn their sons and daughters. The city was trapped in a cycle of guilt and sorrow. The son of Aegeus among the Athenians was a young prince named Theseus. He was the son of King Aegeus, though his parentage was a secret for many years. Theseus had grown to manhood with great strength and ambition. He was determined to become a hero, to prove himself worthy of his destiny. He had already survived the journey from Troas into Athens, clearing the road of bandits and monsters. But the monstrous tribute to Crete was a challenge unlike any other, and it offered him a chance at immortality. The third tribute. When the time came for the third tribute, Theseus made a bold declaration. He would go to Crete, not as a victim, but as a liberator. He would slay the Minotaur and end the scourge forever. Aegeus was horrified at the thought of losing his only son. He tried to persuade Theseus to abandon his plan, but the youth was resolute. He had made his vow. The white sail, seeing that he could not stop his son, Aegeus made a deal with him. He said to Theseus, "My son, if you are victorious, change the black sail of the ship to a white one, so that I may know you are coming home alive. If I see a black sail upon your return, I will know that you have failed and that you are dead." Theseus promised his father that he would do so, and set sail for Crete, the black sail of the tribute ship, a dark omen against the bright sea. But Theseus had no intention of dying. He was going to Crete to kill a monster, and to end the tribute forever. Part 9. The Princess and the Thread. Upon arriving in Crete, Theseus and the other Athenian youths were presented to King Minos. The king looked upon them with cold, hateful eyes. But it was not the king's attention that would be Theseus's salvation. It was the attention of the king's daughter, Ariadne. Ariadne's love Ariadne, the daughter of Minos and Pasiphae, was a beautiful and intelligent princess. She saw Theseus among the prisoners and was immediately captivated by him. The Athenian prince was strong, handsome, and possessed an air of nobility that set him apart from the other victims. Ariadne fell deeply in love with him and was horrified at the thought of him being sacrificed to her half-brother. She could not bear to let him die. The secret plan, desperate to save Theseus, Ariadne went to Daedalus, the master craftsman. She begged him to tell her how one could navigate the labyrinth. Daedalus, who had already been complicit in the queen's betrayal, and who was perhaps seeking to create another legend, agreed to help the princess. He gave her a simple yet ingenious solution, a ball of thread. Ariadne took the thread and went to Theseus. She told him of her love and her plan. She gave him the ball of thread and a sword, or, in some versions, the sword of his father, Aegeus, which he had hidden under a stone in Athens. "Tie one end of this thread to the door of the labyrinth," she instructed, "and hold the ball as you walk. It will unwind behind you, marking the path you have taken. To find your way out, simply follow the thread back to the door. Use the sword to slay the monster." Part 10. The Slaying of the Minotaur. The day of sacrifice arrived. The Athenian youths were led trembling to the entrance of the labyrinth. They were pushed through the doors, and the stones slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate. But Theseus was not afraid. He had a plan. The descent. In the darkness, Theseus tied one end of the thread to the stone door. He gave the other end to the other Athenians to hold. He took the sword in his hand and, leaving the others behind, he followed the winding corridors of the labyrinth. It was a confusing maze of turns and dead ends, but the thread unwinding behind him was his lifeline. He moved deeper into the earth, following the sounds of lowing and heavy breathing, until he reached the very center of the maze. The confrontation. There, in the darkness, he found the Minotaur. The creature was huge, part man, part beast. The bull's head was a terrifying mask, with nostrils that flared and eyes that glowed. It bellowed a challenge and charged at him. The fight was fierce. Some versions say Theseus killed the monster with his bare hands. Others say he used the sword he had been given. It is likely that he used both, wrestling the beast and driving his sword into its heart. The Minotaur fell, and its reign of terror was over. The escape his mission complete, Theseus retrieved the thread and followed it back through the maze. The path was clear. The thread led him past the twisting corridors and false turns, back to the stone door. He found the other Athenians and led them out of the labyrinth. They were free, the first ever to escape the labyrinth. Part 11. The Flight and the Tragedy. With the Minotaur dead, Theseus and the Athenians made their escape from Crete. They took Ariadne with them, and they sailed swiftly away from the island. But their journey was not yet over. The abandonment on Naxos. The ship stopped at the island of Naxos. There, according to the most common version of the myth, Theseus abandoned Ariadne. The reason for his betrayal is unclear. Some say he grew tired of her. Others say he was commanded by the god Dionysus to leave her so that he could wed her. In some versions, Ariadne simply fell asleep, and Theseus sailed away without her. Regardless of the reason, the princess who had saved his life was left alone on a barren shore. She was eventually found by Dionysus, who made her his bride. The black sail, but the greatest tragedy was yet to come. In his haste and perhaps his guilt, Theseus forgot to change the ship's sail. The black sail was still flying. As the ship approached the coast of Athens, King Aegeus, who had been watching from the cliffs of Cape Sunion every day, saw the black sail. He saw the sail and was overcome with grief. He believed his son was dead. The death of Aegeus, unable to bear the thought of a life without his son, the king threw himself from the cliff into the sea below. He fell to his death, and his body was swallowed by the waves. The sea that swallowed him was given his name, the Aegean Sea. Theseus, who had been worrying about how to tell his father about his adventures, arrived home to find that he had unwittingly caused the old king's death. He was now the king of Athens, but the price of his kingship was his father's life. The great victory over the Minotaur was forever tinged with sorrow. Part 12. The Legacy of the Myth. The story of Theseus and the Minotaur is one of the most enduring and influential myths of all time. It has been told and retold for thousands of years, and its influence can be seen in art, literature, and popular culture. In art and culture, the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur was a favorite subject of ancient Greek artists. It was depicted on countless vases, reliefs, and sculptures. The image of Theseus wrestling the Minotaur is one of the most iconic images of the ancient world. It represents the triumph of civilization over savagery, of order over chaos. In modern popular culture, the Minotaur remains a powerful symbol. It has appeared in countless films, television shows, video games, and books. The labyrinth has become a universal metaphor for any confusing or difficult situation. The story of the monster in the maze continues to capture our imagination, a testament to the enduring power of myth. Part 13. The Final Reflection. As we come to the end of the story, we must reflect on what it all means. What is the Minotaur a symbol of? And why does a story endure? A symbol of shame and secrecy, the Minotaur can be seen as a symbol of shame and secrecy. He is a product of a terrible crime, King Minos's broken promise to Poseidon and Persephone's unnatural passion. He is a creature who must be hidden away, locked in the maze, kept from the sight of the world. The labyrinth is a metaphor for the hidden depths of the human soul, the place where our darkest secrets are kept. The hero's journey. The story is also a classic hero's journey. Theseus, a young prince, leaves his home, enters a dark and dangerous place, defeats a monstrous foe, and returns home changed. He is a symbol of courage and determination, a reminder that the human spirit can overcome even the most terrifying obstacles. A cautionary tale. The myth of the Minotaur is also a cautionary tale. It is a warning about the dangers of pride, the consequences of broken promises, and the destructive power of desire. King Minos's hubris leads to the birth of a monster. His rage leads to the death of his own son. and his cruelty leads to the creation of a system of tribute that ultimately brings about his own downfall. The story is a reminder that our actions have consequences, and that the choices we make can have a profound impact on the lives of others. The enduring mystery, the story of the Minotaur, is a story that will never be forgotten. It is a story of terror and courage, of love and loss, of darkness and light. It is a story that speaks to the deepest fears and desires of the human heart. And it is a story that will continue to be told for as long as we dream and imagine. The Minotaur lives on in our imaginations, a shadow in the labyrinth of the mind. Chapter 2, The Labyrinth and the Tribute, Part 1. The Prison of Shadows. The Minotaur was born, a creature of such unnatural horror that even his own mother, Queen Pasiphae, could not bear to look upon him for long. He was a being caught between two worlds, belonging to neither, a living embodiment of his parents' sins. But the creature was not merely a monster to be pitied or feared, he was a problem that needed to be solved. King Minos, the man whose arrogance had set this tragedy in motion, was now faced with the terrible reality of his actions. He could not kill the creature. It was, after all, his wife's child, and to kill it would be to admit the full extent of his family's shame. But he could not let it roam free, for it was a danger to everyone on the island. And so, Minos turned to the one man who could solve any problem, the man whose genius had already been used to create the very instrument of the queen's sin, Daedalus, the master craftsman. The construction of the labyrinth was a feat of engineering that would become legendary. It was a prison unlike any other, a maze so complex and convoluted that anyone who entered it would be lost forever. It was a monument to human ingenuity, but it was also a monument to human cruelty. The labyrinth was designed to hold a monster, but it would also become a tomb for countless innocent souls. It was a place where hope went to die, a place where the darkness of the human heart was made manifest in stone and shadow. The story of the labyrinth is not just a story of architecture. It is a story of power, of fear, and of the lengths to which a king would go to protect his throne and his reputation. It is a story of how the sins of the father are visited upon the children, and how the innocent are made to suffer for the crimes of the guilty. The labyrinth was the heart of the Minotaur myth, the stage upon which the greatest tragedy of the ancient world would unfold. But this was only the beginning of the darkness. The true horror was yet to come, as the labyrinth would become the instrument of a king's vengeance and a city's grief. Haptu, Daedalus, the architect of shadows. To understand the labyrinth, one must first understand the man who built it. Daedalus was a figure of mythic proportions, a genius whose inventions were so advanced that they seemed like magic to the mortal world. He was a man of immense creativity and cunning, but he was also a man of profound moral ambiguity. The origins of Daedalus. Daedalus was an Athenian by birth, a member of the royal family of Athens. He was the son of Metion, the son of Eupalamus, who was the son of Erechtheus, an ancient king of Athens. He was a descendant of the gods, and his lineage was as noble as his talents. He was said to be the grandson of the god Hephaestus, the divine blacksmith, which explained his extraordinary skill with his hands. From a young age, Daedalus showed a remarkable aptitude for invention. He was a sculptor, an architect, and an engineer. He was said to have created statues so lifelike that they had to be chained down to prevent them from walking away. His inventions were legendary, and his fame spread throughout the Greek world. But his genius was also accompanied by a dangerous pride. He was a man who believed that his skills placed him above the laws of men and gods, a belief that would ultimately lead to his downfall. The exile from Athens. Daedalus's fall from grace began in his homeland of Athens. He had a nephew named Talos, also known as Perdix, who showed great promise as an inventor. The boy was a prodigy, a young man whose talents rivaled those of his famous uncle. He invented the saw, inspired by the jawbone of a snake, and the compass, two tools that would revolutionize craftsmanship. Daedalus, however, was consumed by jealousy. He could not bear the thought that his nephew might one day surpass him. In a fit of rage and envy, Daedalus pushed the young Talos from the Acropolis. He fell to his death a victim of his uncle's jealousy. Daedalus was arrested and put on trial for the murder. He was found guilty and sentenced to death, but Daedalus was too clever to be executed. He escaped from prison, fleeing Athens and the justice of its people. He sought refuge on the island of Crete, where King Minos welcomed him with open arms. Minos had heard of Daedalus's genius and saw him as a valuable asset to his kingdom. The service to King Minos in Crete, Daedalus became the king's chief architect and engineer. He was given everything he could desire: wealth, status, and the freedom to pursue his craft. He created magnificent palaces and temples, and he invented countless devices that made the lives of the Cretans easier and more luxurious. He was a man of immense power and influence, but he was also a man who had sold his soul to a tyrant. Daedalus's service to Minos would come to define his life. He would help the queen in her monstrous passion, he would build the prison for her monstrous child, and he would eventually devise the means for the hero to kill the monster. He was a man of contradictions, a genius and a coward, a creator and a destroyer, a man who could build wonders, but who could also build prisons. His story is a story of the price of genius, the cost of ambition, and the moral compromises that can destroy a soul. Part 3. The construction of the Labyrinth. When King Minos ordered Daedalus to build a prison for the Minotaur, the craftsman knew he had to create something unlike anything that had ever been built before. The creature was a monster, but it was also a symbol of the king's shame, a living reminder of the curse that Poseidon had placed upon the house of Minos. The prison had to be inescapable, a place where the creature could be hidden from the world forever. The design Daedalus began his work with a plan. He would build a maze, a structure so complex that anyone who entered it would be unable to find their way out. The labyrinth would be a labyrinth of winding passages, dead ends and false turns. It would be a palace of confusion, a monument to the power of human ingenuity and the depths of human cruelty. The labyrinth was built beneath the palace of Knossos, a vast underground complex that mirrored the complexity of the palace above. It was said to have countless rooms, corridors, and stairways, all designed to confuse and disorient anyone who entered. The walls were high and made of stone, and the passages were dark and narrow. There were no windows, no signs, no clues to guide the lost soul. The only sound was the echo of one's own footsteps, a constant reminder of the isolation and despair. The genius of the design Daedalus's design was a masterpiece of psychological manipulation. The labyrinth was not just a physical maze, it was a mental one. The passages were designed to create a sense of disorientation, to make the victim feel that they were going in circles, that they were trapped in an endless loop of confusion and fear. The turns were unpredictable, the dead ends were sudden, and the false paths were tempting. The labyrinth was designed to break the spirit of anyone who entered it, to make them lose all hope of escape. The key to the labyrinth was the knowledge that it had no center, or rather, that its center was everywhere and nowhere. The Minotaur was not a beast confined to a single chamber. He was a creature of the labyrinth, a being who could move freely through its passages. He knew the maze by instinct, and he could navigate it with ease. The labyrinth was not just his prison, it was his home, his hunting ground. The symbolism of the labyrinth. The labyrinth is a powerful symbol that has resonated throughout human history. It represents the complexity of life, the confusion of the human condition, and the difficulty of finding one's way in a world that often seems chaotic and meaningless. It is a symbol of the journey inward, the descent into the depths of the self, the confrontation with the darkness that lies within. In the context of the myth, the labyrinth also represents the hidden shame of the Cretan royal house. It is the place where the king's sins are buried, the place where the monster is kept from the sight of the world. It is a symbol of the secrets that we all keep, the parts of ourselves that we try to hide from others. The labyrinth is a reminder that we are all capable of creating prisons for ourselves and for others, and that the only way to escape is to confront the monster within. Part 4. The Minotaur in the Maze. The Minotaur was placed in the labyrinth when he was still young, a creature of immense strength and growing ferocity. He was a being of instinct and rage, a creature who knew nothing but the darkness and the hunt. His life was a nightmare of isolation and violence, existence without hope or redemption. The creature's existence. The Minotaur was not a mindless beast. He was a creature of intellect and emotion, a being who was capable of thought and feeling. He was a victim of his own nature, a creature who was born to be a monster and who had no choice but to embrace his fate. He lived in the darkness of the labyrinth, eating the flesh of the victims who were sent to him and dreaming of a world he would never see. The Minotaur was a creature of immense strength and speed. He could move through the labyrinth with the agility of a bull and the cunning of a man. His horns were razor-sharp, and his bellow was a sound of pure terror. He was a predator, and the labyrinth was his hunting ground. The victims who were sent to him were the most beautiful and noble youths of Athens, a constant reminder of the hatred that Minos held for the city that had killed his son. The nature of the beast. The Minotaur was not a demon. He was a creature of flesh and blood, a being who was born from the sin of his mother and the curse of his father. He was a monster, but he was also a tragedy. He was a creature who was never given a chance to be anything other than what he was, a being who was condemned to a life of violence and isolation. His story is a story of the power of fate, the cruelty of the gods, and the tragedy of a life that is lived in the shadows. The victims. The victims who were sent to the Minotaur were the most beautiful and noble youths of Athens. They were selected by lot, and they were forced to board the black ship that would carry them to their doom. They were a reminder of the power of Crete, a symbol of the humiliation of Athens. Their deaths were a cruel and pointless sacrifice, a tribute to a monster that was born from the sin of a king. The victims were not just numbers, they were individuals. They were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, lovers and friends. They were young people who had their whole lives ahead of them, and they were being sent to a horrible death for a crime they did not commit. Their suffering was a testament to the cruelty of the world, a reminder that the innocent often pay for the sins of the guilty. Their screams echoed through the labyrinth, a constant reminder of the horror that lurked in the darkness. Part 5. The Death of Androgeos. The story of the Minotaur is inextricably linked to the death of Androgeos, the son of King Minos. It was this tragedy that set the stage for the tribute, the heroic quest of Theseus, and the ultimate destruction of the monster. The Prince of Crete Androgeos was the pride of the Cretan royal house. He was a young man of immense strength and athletic prowess, a prince who was loved by his father and admired by the people of Crete. He was a warrior, a competitor, and a symbol of the power of the Minoan civilization. His death was a blow to the kingdom, a loss that would have far-reaching consequences. Androgeos traveled to Athens to compete in the Panathenaic Games, a festival that was held every 4 years in honor of the goddess Athena. The games were a celebration of Athenian culture, a showcase of the city's strength and vitality. Athletes from all over the Greek world would come to compete, seeking glory and honor. The jealousy of Aegeus Androgeus was a formidable competitor. He won victory after victory, defeating the best athletes of Athens and earning the admiration of the crowd. But his success was his undoing. King Aegeus of Athens, the father of Theseus, was consumed by jealousy. He could not bear to see a foreign prince outshine his own people. In his envy, he devised a plan to get rid of the young prince. In some versions of the myth, Aegeus invited Androgeus to dinner and then had him murdered. In others, he sent the prince on a dangerous mission to slay the Cretan bull, which had escaped from Crete and was ravaging the countryside of Marathon. Androgeus, eager to prove his courage, accepted the challenge. He found the bull and engaged it in combat. But he was gored to death by the beast. The rage of Minos. When King Minos learned of his son's death, he was consumed by grief and rage. He blamed the Athenians for the death of his son, and he demanded justice. He raised a great fleet and sailed against Athens, determined to exact his revenge. The Athenian army was no match for the powerful Cretan forces, and the city was soon at Minos's mercy. The Athenian people were terrified. They had committed a terrible crime, and they knew that they would have to pay the price. They sent envoys to Minos, begging for mercy. Minos listened to their pleas, but he was not swayed. He demanded a punishment that would be a constant reminder of Athenian guilt, a humiliation that would last for generations. He demanded a tribute, the tribute of 7 ewes and 7 maidens. The terms of the tribute were brutal. Every 7 or 9 years, the accounts differ. Athens was to send a ship carrying 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete. They were to be the most beautiful and noble youths of the city, the cream of Athenian society. Once they arrived in Crete, they would be led into the Labyrinth, a living sacrifice to the Minotaur. The monster would devour them one by one. The tribute was a symbol of Athenian submission, a constant reminder of the city's humiliation. It was a punishment that would continue for generations, a wound that would never heal. The Athenians were forced to accept the terms, and they began the painful ritual of selecting the victims. It was a time of great sorrow, a time when the city mourned its children. The black ship would depart, and the Athenians would watch it sail away, knowing that they would never see their sons and daughters again. Part 6. The Sorrow of Athens. The tribute was a terrible burden on the city of Athens. It was a constant reminder of their subjugation, a source of grief and shame that was passed down from generation to generation. The selection of the victims. The selection of the victims was a painful and arbitrary process. The youths were chosen by lot. A random selection was supposed to be impartial, but no one could be impartial when the lives of their children were at stake. Families would hold their breath, praying that their children would not be chosen. There were tears, protests, and desperate pleas. But the law was the law, and the tribute had to be paid. The chosen youths were treated with honor and respect. They were given a final feast, a last celebration of their lives. They were dressed in their finest clothes, and they were allowed to say goodbye to their families. But the farewells were bittersweet, filled with the knowledge that they would never see their loved ones again. The youths were taken to the harbor where the black ship was waiting. They boarded the ship, and the sails were raised. The ship would sail away, a symbol of Athenian grief and shame. The black sail. The black sail of the tribute ship was a symbol of mourning. It was a reminder of the sorrow that the tribute brought to the city. The black sail was a constant presence, a visual reminder of the horror that lurked in the labyrinth. The Athenians would watch the ship depart, and they would weep for their children. The black sail was a symbol of their powerlessness, a testament to the tyranny of King Minos. The arrival in Crete. When the ship arrived in Crete, the youths would be led to the labyrinth. They would be greeted by King Minos, who would look upon them with cold, hateful eyes. They would be led into the darkness of the maze, and the doors would be sealed behind them. They would wander the labyrinth, lost and terrified, until they met the Minotaur. The creature would hunt them down one by one, and he would devour them. Their screams would echo through the labyrinth, a constant reminder of the horror of the tribute, the legacy of sorrow. The tribute was a tragedy that was passed down from generation to generation. The Athenians never forgot the horror of the labyrinth. The story of the Minotaur was a constant reminder of their suffering, a symbol of their humiliation. The myth of Theseus and the Minotaur was not just a story. It was a memory, a collective trauma that was woven into the fabric of Athenian identity. It was a story that would be told and retold for centuries, a testament to the power of the past to shape the present. Part 7. The Story of the Cretan Bull. The Cretan bull, the father of the Minotaur, is a figure of immense power and significance in its own right. The story of the bull is a story of divine punishment, of the power of the gods, and of the tragic consequences of human arrogance. The gift of Poseidon. As we discussed in Chapter 1, the Cretan bull was a gift from Poseidon to King Minos. It was a magnificent creature, a symbol of the god's power and favor. But Minos's decision to keep the bull for himself was a fatal mistake, an act of hubris that would bring a curse upon his house. The bull's escape after the birth of the Minotaur, the Cretan bull was no longer of use to King Minos. Some versions of the myth say that the bull was allowed to roam free, a symbol of the curse that had been placed upon the royal house. Others say that Minos, in his shame, tried to destroy the creature but failed. The bull escaped from Crete, and it wandered the Greek world, a symbol of the chaos and destruction that Minos had unleashed. The bull in Marathon. The bull eventually found its way to the region of Marathon, a plain in Attica. There it ravaged the countryside, killing livestock and terrorizing the people. The bull was a creature of immense power, and no one could stop it. It was a symbol of the curse that had been placed upon the house of Minos, a curse that would spread to the lands of Greece. The capture of the bull. The bull was finally captured by Heracles, the greatest hero of Greek mythology. Heracles was tasked with capturing the bull as one of his 12 labors. He traveled to Marathon, and he wrestled the bull to the ground. He brought the bull back to King Eurystheus, who was horrified by the creature. Eurystheus set the bull free, and the bull wandered the Greek world once again. The bull and Androgeos. In some versions of the myth, it was the Cretan bull that killed Androgeos, the son of King Minos. Androgeos was sent to Marathon to slay the bull, but he was gored to death by the beast. This version of the myth adds a tragic irony to the story. The bull that was the cause of Minos's curse also killed his son, a fitting punishment for the king's arrogance. Part 8. The seventh labor of Heracles. The capture of the Cretan bull is a significant event in Greek mythology, and it is closely connected to the story of the Minotaur. Heracles' labor is a story of strength and courage, of the power of the hero to overcome even the most formidable challenges. The labor Heracles was tasked with capturing the Cretan bull as his seventh labor. He traveled to Crete, where he met King Minos. The king, eager to be rid of the creature, allowed Heracles to take the bull. Heracles wrestled the bull to the ground, a feat of immense strength and skill. He then brought the bull back to King Eurystheus. Heracles' journey back to Greece was a long and difficult one. He had to transport the bull across the sea, a task that was complicated by the creature's immense size and strength. But Heracles was a master of the impossible, and he managed to bring the bull back to Mycenae. The fate of the bull Eurystheus was terrified of the bull. He refused to keep it, and he set it free. The bull wandered the Greek world, eventually finding its way to the region of Marathon. It was there that it was eventually slain by Theseus. who would use its capture as a stepping stone on his journey to Athens. The connection to the Minotaur. The story of the Cretan bull is a crucial part of the Minotaur myth. The bull is the father of the Minotaur, and its capture by Heracles is a reminder of the power of the hero. The bull's eventual fate, being slain by Theseus, is a symbol of the connection between the two heroes, a link between the old generation of heroes and the new. Part 9. The Myth of the Labyrinth in Art and Literature. The myth of the labyrinth has been a source of inspiration for artists, writers, and poets for thousands of years. Its image is one of the most enduring symbols of the ancient world, a testament to the power of the myth to capture the human imagination. The labyrinth in ancient art. The labyrinth was a popular subject in ancient Greek art. It was depicted on vases, on reliefs, and on coins. The image of the labyrinth was a symbol of the power of Crete, a reminder of the cunning of Daedalus and the horror of the Minotaur. The labyrinth was also a symbol of the complexity of the world, a reminder that life is a maze of choices and consequences. The labyrinth in literature. The labyrinth has been a subject of literature for centuries. The story of Theseus and the Minotaur was a popular theme in ancient Greek drama. The playwrights Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides all wrote plays about the myth, though most of these works have been lost. The story of the labyrinth has also been a theme in modern literature, from poetry to novels to fantasy fiction. The labyrinth as a metaphor. The labyrinth has become a powerful metaphor in the modern world. It is a symbol of confusion, of difficulty, of the search for meaning in a complex world. The labyrinth is a reminder that life is a journey, a path that is full of twists and turns, dead ends and false starts. The labyrinth is a symbol of the human condition, a testament to the difficulty of finding one's way in a world that often seems incomprehensible. Part 10. The archaeological truth of Knossos. The myth of the labyrinth may have been inspired by the real palace of Knossos, a vast and complex structure that was excavated by Sir Arthur Evans in the early 20th century. The Palace of Knossos. The Palace of Knossos was the center of the Minoan civilization. It was a sprawling complex of over 1,300 rooms, a structure that was so large and complex that it was easy to get lost in its many chambers. The palace was a testament to the power and sophistication of the Minoans, a civilization that had dominated the Aegean for centuries. The labyrinthine structure. The Palace of Knossos was built on multiple levels with winding corridors, staircases, and courtyards. It was a labyrinthine structure, a place that was designed to confuse and disorient. It is possible that the myth of the labyrinth was inspired by the complexity of the palace. The ancient Greeks may have heard stories of the palace, and they may have imagined a structure that was even more complex and terrifying. The double axe. The palace of Knossos was decorated with the double axe, a symbol that was sacred to the Minoans. The double axe was known as the Labyrinth, and it is possible that the word labyrinth was derived from this symbol. The Labyrinth was a symbol of power and authority, a reminder of the strength of the Minoan civilization. The presence of the Labyrinth in the palace may have contributed to the myth of the labyrinth, a place that was associated with the power of the king and the mystery of the gods. The bull frescoes. The palace of Knossos was decorated with frescoes depicting bulls and bull leaping. These frescoes are a testament to the importance of the bull in Minoan religion and culture. The bull was a symbol of strength and virility, a creature that was both feared and revered. The frescoes may have inspired the myth of the Minotaur, a creature that was part bull and part man, a symbol of the power and the danger of the bull. Has 11. The legacy of the labyrinth. The myth of the labyrinth has endured for thousands of years. It is a story that has been told and retold, adapted and reinterpreted by countless generations. Its legacy is a testament to the enduring power of mythology, the power of stories to capture the human imagination. The labyrinth in modern culture. The labyrinth has become a ubiquitous symbol in modern culture. It appears in films, in television shows, in video games, and in literature. It is a symbol of confusion, of difficulty, of the search for meaning in a complex world. The labyrinth is a reminder that life is a journey, a path that is full of twists and turns, dead ends and false starts. The labyrinth is a psychological symbol. In psychology, the labyrinth is a symbol of the unconscious mind. It represents the hidden depths of the psyche, the place where our fears and desires are hidden. The labyrinth is a symbol of the journey inward, the confrontation with the darkness that lies within. The labyrinth is a symbol of redemption. The labyrinth is also a symbol of redemption. It is a place of trial, a place of suffering, but it is also a place of transformation. The hero who enters the labyrinth and emerges victorious is a symbol of the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. The labyrinth is a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is hope. There is always a way out. Part 12. The Final Reflection. As we come to the end of this chapter, we must reflect on the labyrinth and the tribute. They are the heart of the Minotaur myth, the instruments of the king's cruelty and the stage for the hero's triumph. The prison of shame. The labyrinth is a prison of shame. It is the place where the king's sins are hidden, the place where the monster is kept from the sight of the world. It is a symbol of the secrets that we all keep, the parts of ourselves that we try to hide from others. The labyrinth is a reminder that we are all capable of creating prisons for ourselves and for others. The cost of arrogance. The tribute is a reminder of the cost of arrogance. King Minos's pride led to the death of his son and the creation of a system of cruelty that would last for generations. The tribute was a punishment for the Athenians, but it was also a punishment for Minos. It was a reminder of his sin, a constant source of shame and guilt. The hero's journey. The labyrinth is the stage for the hero's journey. It is the place where Theseus will confront his fears and prove his courage. The labyrinth is a symbol of the challenges that we all face, the obstacles that we must overcome to find our way. A final thought. The labyrinth is a symbol of the human condition. It is a place of confusion and difficulty, a place of suffering and fear. But it is also a place of transformation, a place of redemption. The labyrinth is a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is hope. There is always a way out. The story of the labyrinth is a story of power and cruelty, but it is also a story of courage and redemption. It is a story that has been told for thousands of years, a story that will continue to be told for thousands of years to come. It is a story of the hero who enters the darkness and emerges victorious. It is a story of the human spirit, a story of hope. Chapter 3. The Coming of Theseus, Part 1. The Hero's Dawn. In the city of Athens, the shadow of the black sail hung heavy over every heart. The tribute to Crete was a wound that would not heal, a constant reminder of the city's humiliation and the cruelty of King Minos. Families lived in fear of the lottery, praying that their children would not be chosen to feed the monster in the maze. The people of Athens had grown accustomed to their suffering, accepting it as an unavoidable part of their existence. But there was one young man who refused to accept it. He was a prince, a warrior, and a hero in the making. His name was Theseus, and he was destined to change the fate of Athens forever. Theseus was not an ordinary man. He was the son of King Aegeus, but his birth was shrouded in mystery and prophecy. He had been raised in secret, trained in the arts of war and the virtues of heroism. He had already proven his courage by clearing the road to Athens of bandits and monsters, and he was eager to prove himself worthy of his royal lineage. When he learned of the tribute, he was filled with a righteous rage. He would not stand by while his people suffered. He would go to Crete, he would slay the Minotaur, and he would end the scourge forever. The story of Theseus is a story of courage, determination, and self-sacrifice. It is a story of a young man who was willing to risk his life for the sake of his people. It is a story of a hero who confronted the darkness and emerged victorious. But it is also a story of love, loss, and the tragic consequences of a simple mistake. The journey of Theseus is the heart of the Minotaur myth, the climax of the tragedy that began with the arrogance of King Minos. But this was only the beginning of Theseus's adventures. The greatest challenges were still ahead of him, both in the labyrinth and in the world beyond. Part 2. The secret of Theseus's birth. To understand the hero, one must understand his origins. Theseus was not born in Athens. He was born in the city of Troezen, a small kingdom in the Peloponnese. His father, King Aegeus, had traveled there to consult the oracle at Delphi, seeking advice on how to produce an heir to the throne of Athens. Aegeus's quest for an heir king. Aegeus was a man of great power and influence, but he was also a man of great sorrow. He had no children, and the throne of Athens was in danger of falling to his brother Pallas and his 50 sons. Aegeus was desperate for an heir, a son who could carry on his legacy and secure the future of his kingdom. He traveled to Delphi to consult the oracle of Apollo. The oracle, as was her custom, spoke in riddles. She told Aegeus, "Do not loosen the bulging mouth of the wineskin until you have reached the height of Athens, lest you die of grief." The cryptic message confused the king. He did not understand its meaning, and he returned to Troezen, where he sought the advice of his friend, King Pittheus. The deception of Pittheus. Pittheus was the king of Troezen, a wise and cunning man who understood the meaning of the oracle. He knew that the bulging mouth of the wineskin was a metaphor for Aegeus's sexuality, and that the height of Athens was a reference to the city's Acropolis. The oracle was warning Aegeus not to have sex with anyone until he returned to Athens, lest he father a child who would cause him great grief. But Pittheus was a man of ambition, and he saw an opportunity. He wanted his own bloodline to be connected to the throne of Athens. Pittheus plied Aegeus with wine, and while the king was intoxicated, he arranged for his daughter, Aethra, to share his bed. Aegeus, believing that he was with an unknown woman, slept with Aethra, and she became pregnant with his child. The naming of Theseus that same night, Aethra had a dream. She was visited by the goddess Athena, who instructed her to go to the island of Spharia, where she was to make an offering to the god Poseidon. Aethra followed the goddess's instructions, and while she was on the island, she was visited by Poseidon himself. The god of the sea lay with her, and she conceived a second child, a child who would be the son of Poseidon. When Aegeus woke the next morning, he was filled with shame and regret. He realized what he had done, and he knew that he had violated the oracle's warning. He told Aethra that if she gave birth to a son, she was to raise him in secret. He buried a sword and a pair of sandals under a heavy rock, and he told her that when the boy was strong enough to lift the rock and retrieve the items, he was to come to Athens and claim his birthright. Aethra gave birth to a son, and she named him Theseus. The boy was the son of both Aegeus and Poseidon, a child of immense power and divine favor. Part 3. The boyhood of Theseus. Theseus grew up in Troezen, a strong and courageous young man. He was raised by his mother, Aethra, and his grandfather, Pittheus. He was trained in the arts of war, and he was taught the virtues of heroism. He was a natural leader, a boy who was destined for greatness. The training of a hero. Theseus was a gifted athlete. He was strong, fast, and agile. He excelled at wrestling, running, and throwing the discus. He was also a skilled swordsman, a warrior who could hold his own against any opponent. His grandfather, Pittheus, was a wise and cunning king who had trained many heroes, and he recognized the potential in his grandson. He taught Theseus the importance of courage, honor, and justice. Theseus was also a man of intellect. He was a thinker, a strategist, a man who understood the importance of planning and preparation. He was not just a brute, he was a leader, a man who could inspire others to follow him. The secret of the rock. When Theseus reached adulthood, his mother told him the secret of his birth. She told him about his father, King Aegeus, and she told him about the sword and the sandals that were hidden under the heavy rock. She told him that if he was strong enough to lift the rock and retrieve the items, he was to go to Athens and claim his birthright. Theseus was determined to prove himself. He traveled to the place where the rock was hidden, and he lifted it with ease. He found the sword and the sandals, and he knew that the time had come to journey to Athens. He was ready to meet his father and to claim his place as the Prince of Athens. Part 4. The Road to Athens. Theseus decided to travel to Athens by land rather than by sea. The sea route was the easier path, but Theseus was eager to prove his courage. He wanted to face the challenges that awaited him, to prove that he was a hero worthy of his lineage. The road to Athens was dangerous, infested with bandits and monsters. It was a path that was traveled by the brave and the foolish, a road that was littered with the bones of those who had failed. The 6 labors of Theseus. Theseus encountered a series of challenges on his journey to Athens. 6 labors that would test his strength, his courage, and his cunning. These labors were a preview of the challenges that awaited him in the labyrinth, a preparation for the greatest battle of his life. The labor of Periphetes. The first challenge came in the form of Periphetes, a bandit who was known as the club bearer. He was a giant of a man, a brute who carried a massive bronze club. He would attack travelers, crushing them with his club and stealing their possessions. Periphetes was a fearsome opponent, a man who had never been defeated. Theseus confronted the giant, and he fought him with courage and skill. He managed to disarm Periphetes, and he killed him with his own club. The club became a symbol of Theseus's victory, a trophy that he would carry with him on his journey. The labor of Sinis. The second challenge came in the form of Sinis, a bandit who was known as the Pine Bender. Sinis had a cruel and unusual method of killing his victims. He would bend 2 pine trees to the ground, tie his victim to the branches, and then release the trees. The victim would be torn apart, a gruesome and agonizing death. Theseus fought Sinis and defeated him. He used Sinis's own method against him, bending the pine trees and tying the bandit to the branches. Sinis was torn apart, a fitting punishment for his cruelty. The labor of the Crommyonian sow. The third challenge came in the form of the Crommyonian sow, a monstrous pig that terrorized the region of Cromyon. The sow was a creature of immense size and ferocity, a beast that had killed countless travelers and farmers. Theseus hunted the sow and killed it. In some versions of the myth, the sow was not a monster, but a female bandit named Phia, who was known for her cruelty and her ferocity. Regardless of the version, Theseus defeated the creature and freed the region from its terror. The labor of Siren. The fourth challenge came in the form of Siren, a bandit who lived on the cliffs of the Saronic Gulf. Siren would force travelers to wash his feet, and while they were kneeling, he would kick them off the cliff into the sea, where they would be devoured by a giant turtle. Theseus confronted Siren and defeated him. He used Siren's own method against him, forcing him to wash his feet and then kicking him off the cliff. Siren was devoured by the turtle, a fitting punishment for his cruelty. The labor of Circean. The fifth challenge came in the form of Circean, a king of Eleusis who was known for his skill at wrestling. Circean would challenge travelers to a wrestling match, and he would kill them if they lost. Theseus accepted Circean's challenge, and he fought him in a brutal wrestling match. Theseus was a skilled wrestler, and he managed to defeat Circean. He killed the king, ending his reign of terror. The labor of Procrustes. The sixth and final challenge came in the form of Procrustes, a bandit who was known as the Stretcher. Procrustes had a cruel and unusual method of killing his victims. He would invite them to stay at his house, and he would offer them a bed. If they were too short for the bed, he would stretch them to fit. If they were too tall, he would cut off their limbs. Theseus confronted Procrustes and defeated him. He used Procrustes' own method against him, forcing him to lie on his own bed and stretching him to fit. Procrustes was killed, a fitting punishment for his cruelty. Part 5. The Arrival in Athens. Theseus arrived in Athens, a hero who had proven his courage and his strength. He was a stranger in the city, and he was eager to meet his father and claim his birthright. But he was also a man of caution, and he decided to test his father before revealing his identity. The Medea's plot. Athena was ruled by King Aegeus, but the king was not alone. He had married a woman named Medea, a sorceress of immense power and cunning. Medea had fled from Corinth after murdering her own children, and she had found refuge in Athens. She was a woman of ambition, and she had no intention of allowing a stranger to threaten her position. Medea recognized Theseus as a threat to her power. She saw him as a rival for the throne, a man who would challenge her influence over the king. She knew that Aegeus had an heir somewhere, and she feared that Theseus was that heir. The poisoned cup Medea conspired to kill Theseus. She convinced Aegeus that Theseus was a dangerous stranger, a spy who had come to harm the king. She advised Aegeus to kill Theseus by poisoning him. Aegeus, trusting his wife, agreed to the plan. A feast was held in honor of Theseus, and the king offered him a cup of wine that had been laced with poison. Theseus was about to drink the wine when he drew his sword to slice the meat. Aegeus recognized the sword. It was the same sword that he had left under the rock in Troezen, the sword that he had given to his son. The recognition Aegeus realized that Theseus was his son. He knocked the poisoned cup from his hand, and he embraced his long-lost child. Medea was banished from Athens, and Theseus was recognized as the Prince of Athens. He had found his father, and he had claimed his birthright. Part 6. The Tributes Return. Theseus was welcomed into the royal court of Athens, but his happiness was clouded by the dark shadow of the tribute. The black ship was about to depart again, carrying the youth of Athens to their doom in the Labyrinth. Theseus could not bear the thought of more innocent lives being sacrificed to the Minotaur. The gathering of the youths. The youths had been selected, 7 young men and 7 young women, the most beautiful and noble of Athens. They were dressed in their finest clothes, and they were prepared to board the black ship. Their families wept, and the city mourned. The tribute was a terrible burden, a constant reminder of Athenian humiliation. Theseus' decision. Theseus made a bold declaration. He would go to Crete. He would travel with the youths, not as a victim, but as a hero. He would kill the Minotaur, and he would end the tribute forever. The people of Athens were shocked by his decision. They admired his courage, but they feared for his safety. They had seen too many of their children die in the labyrinth. The promise to Aegeus. Aegeus was horrified. He had just found his son, and now his son was risking his life on a suicide mission. He begged Theseus not to go, but the young man was resolute. He had made his decision, and he would not be swayed. Aegeus made Theseus promise one thing. If he succeeded, he would change the black sail of the ship to a white one, so that his father would know that he was alive. Theseus promised his father that he would do so, and he boarded the black ship. Part 7. The Arrival in Crete. The black ship sailed across the Aegean Sea, carrying the youth of Athens to their doom. But Theseus was not a victim. He was a hero. He was determined to confront the Minotaur, and he was determined to return home alive. The Palace of Knossos. The ship arrived in Crete. and the youths were led to the palace of Knossos. They were presented to King Minos, who looked upon them with cold, hateful eyes. He saw the Athenian prince among the victims, and he was filled with contempt. He knew that Theseus was a son of Aegeus, and he was eager to see him die. The Princess Ariadne among the spectators was the Princess Ariadne, the daughter of Minos and Pasiphae. She was a beautiful and intelligent woman, a woman of courage and compassion. She looked upon Theseus, and she was struck by his beauty and his courage. She saw the determination in his eyes, and she knew that he was not an ordinary man. She fell in love with him. Ariadne's plan. Ariadne could not bear the thought of Theseus being killed by the Minotaur. She knew the horror of the labyrinth, and she knew that no one had ever escaped. She decided to help him. She went to Daedalus, the master craftsman, and she begged him to reveal the secret of the labyrinth. Daedalus, who had already helped the queen in her monstrous passion, was moved by the princess's plea. He gave her a ball of thread, and he told her how to use it. Part 8. The Thread of Life. Ariadne gave the ball of thread to Theseus, along with a sword. She told him to tie one end of the thread to the entrance of the labyrinth, and to hold the ball as he walked. The thread would unwind behind him, marking his path. To find his way out, he simply had to follow the thread back to the entrance. She also gave him a sword, a weapon that he would use to kill the Minotaur. The moment of decision, Theseus thanked Ariadne for her help. He promised to take her with him when he escaped from Crete. He gave his word that he would not abandon her. He then led the Athenian youths into the labyrinth, the ball of thread in his hand and the sword at his side. The doors closed behind them, sealing them in the darkness. Part 9. The Descent into the Labyrinth. The labyrinth was a place of eternal darkness, a maze of winding passages and dead ends. The air was cold and damp, and the only sound was the echo of their own footsteps. The Athenian youths were terrified. They had heard the stories of the Minotaur, and they knew that they were walking into a trap. The unraveling thread. Theseus took the lead. He tied one end of the thread to the door, and he began to walk. The thread unraveled behind him, marking the path he had taken. He told the other youths to stay close, to trust the thread, and to follow him no matter what. He was their leader, and they were his responsibility. The journey inward. Theseus moved deeper into the labyrinth. He followed the winding passages, turning left and right, going down stairs and up ramps. The thread was his lifeline, his connection to the world outside. He did not know where the Minotaur was, but he knew that he would find him. The sounds of the maze. The deeper he went, the stronger the smell of death became. He could hear the drip of water, the scurry of rats, and the distant sound of lowing. The Minotaur was near. Theseus tightened his grip on his sword, and he continued his journey. He was not afraid. He was a hero, and he was on a mission to save his people. Part 10. The Confrontation. The labyrinth opened into a large chamber, a place of immense size and shadow. The air was thick with the smell of blood and decay. And there, in the center of the chamber, stood the Minotaur. The beast. The creature was a being of immense size and strength, a man with the head of a bull. His horns were sharp, his nostrils flared, and his eyes burned with a red, animalistic fire. He was a creature of pure rage, a being that had been driven mad by years of isolation and violence. He bellowed a challenge, a sound that echoed through the labyrinths like thunder. The battle. The Minotaur charged at Theseus, his horns lowered. Theseus dodged the attack, rolling to the side and striking the creature with his sword. The Minotaur was wounded, but he was not defeated. He turned and charged again. The battle was fierce, a struggle between man and beast, between civilization and savagery. Theseus fought with courage and skill. He used his strength and his speed, his cunning and his determination. He dodged the creature's attacks, and he struck when he saw an opening. The Minotaur was a powerful opponent, But Theseus was a hero. The victory. Finally, after a long and brutal battle, Theseus saw his opportunity. He drove his sword into the Minotaur's heart, and the creature fell to the ground. The beast was dead. The labyrinth was silent. Theseus had won. Part 11. The Escape. Theseus retrieved the thread, the lifeline that had guided him through the labyrinth. He followed the thread back through the maze, leading the Athenian youths out of the darkness. He knew that the journey was not over. He still had to escape from Crete. The journey to the ship. Theseus and the Athenian youths emerged from the labyrinth, blinking in the sunlight. They were free. They had escaped from the prison of the Minotaur. Theseus led them to the harbor where the black ship was waiting. They boarded the ship and they sailed away from Crete. Part 12. The Escape from Crete. The ship sailed across the sea, carrying the Athenian youths to freedom. But Theseus had not forgotten his promise to Ariadne. He had promised to take her with him, and he would not break his word. The rescue of Ariadne. Ariadne was waiting for them as she had promised. She boarded the ship, and they sailed away from Crete. They were free at last. The Minotaur was dead. The tribute was ended, and Athens was saved. Part 13. The Aftermath. The ship sailed across the Aegean Sea, carrying Theseus and the Athenian youths home. But the journey was not without its tragedies. Ariadne was abandoned on the island of Naxos, a victim of Theseus's carelessness or his cruelty. And Theseus forgot to change the black sail, a mistake that would cost his father his life. The abandonment of Ariadne. The ship stopped at the island of Naxos, where the crew rested. In some versions of the myth, Theseus abandoned Ariadne there. In others, she was abducted by the god Dionysus. Regardless of the reason, Ariadne was left behind. She wept on the shore, a princess who had been betrayed by the hero she loved. She was eventually found by Dionysus, who made her his wife. The black sail Theseus forgot to change the sail. He was so caught up in his victory that he neglected to fulfill his promise. The black sail was still flying as the ship approached Athens. King Aegeus, who had been watching from the cliffs of Cape Sunion, saw the black sail and was overcome with grief. He believed that his son was dead. He threw himself from the cliff, falling to his death in the sea below. The sea was named the Aegean in his honor. The grief of Theseus. Theseus arrived home to find that his father was dead. He had won a great victory, but he had also caused a terrible tragedy. He was the king of Athens, but he was a king who was haunted by grief. The victory over the Minotaur was forever tinged with sorrow. Part 14. The Final Reflection. As we come to the end of this chapter, we must reflect on the coming of Theseus. He was a hero, a man of immense courage and determination. He saved his people from a terrible fate, and he became a symbol of Athenian pride. The hero's journey. The story of Theseus is a classic hero's journey. He left his home, he faced challenges, he conquered a monster, and he returned home transformed. His journey is a symbol of the challenges that we all face, the obstacles that we must overcome to find our way. The hero's journey is a journey of growth, of transformation, of self-discovery, the price of victory. But the story of Theseus is also a story of the price of victory. He won a great victory, but he also caused a terrible tragedy. He lost his father, and he abandoned the princess who had saved his life. His victory was not without its costs. The enduring legacy. The story of Theseus is a story that has endured for thousands of years. It is a story of courage and determination, of sacrifice and tragedy. It is a story that speaks to the deepest truths of the human condition. It is a story of the hero who confronts the darkness and emerges victorious, but who also pays a price for his victory. Theseus is a hero, but he is also a human being, a man who is capable of making mistakes. Chapter 4. The Flight and the Fall, Part 1. The Bitter Victory. The Minotaur was dead. The Labyrinth had been conquered. The tribute was ended forever. Theseus, the Prince of Athens, had achieved what no man had ever achieved before. He had entered the maze, slain the monster, and emerged victorious. He was a hero, a legend in his own time. The Athenian youths who had accompanied him were free, their lives spared from the horror of the labyrinth. The black ship, once a symbol of grief and humiliation, was now a vessel of liberation and triumph. The people of Athens would greet them with celebrations and songs of praise. Theseus would be hailed as the savior of his city, a king who had delivered his people from the tyranny of Crete. But the victory was not without its shadows. The journey home would be marked by tragedy, betrayal, and a mistake that would cost the hero his father's life. The story of Theseus is not a simple tale of triumph. It is a story of the bitter price of victory, the cost of glory, and the fragility of human happiness. As the ship sailed away from Crete, the Athenian youths rejoiced. They had escaped the labyrinth, they had escaped the Minotaur, and they were sailing home. But Theseus was not at peace. He had made a promise to Ariadne, the princess who had saved his life. He had promised to take her with him, to make her his wife. But the hero's heart was troubled. He was a king, a ruler of men, and he was bound by the expectations of his people. Could he truly bring a foreign princess back to Athens, a princess who was the daughter of his enemy? The weight of his decision hung over him like a shadow. The flight from Crete was a journey of joy and sorrow, of love and betrayal, of hope and despair. It was a journey that would test the hero's character, a journey that would reveal the depth of his humanity and the limits of his honor. The greatest challenges were still ahead of Theseus, both on the sea and in the city he had left behind. The tragedy of the black sail was yet to come, a mistake that would shatter the hero's heart and reshape the destiny of Athens. But this was only the beginning of Theseus's trials. The journey home was fraught with dangers, both seen and unseen, and the hero would face challenges that would test his soul as much as his strength. Part 2. The ship set sail. The escape from Crete was a desperate and daring act. The Cretan fleet was powerful, and King Minos would not let the Athenians escape without a fight. Theseus and his companions had to move quickly and quietly, slipping away from the harbor of Knossos under the cover of darkness. The departure. The Athenian youths, their hearts filled with hope and fear, boarded the black ship. They were joined by Ariadne, the princess who had betrayed her family to save the man she loved. She carried with her the ball of thread that had guided Theseus through the labyrinth, a symbol of her love and her sacrifice. The ship sailed away from Crete, leaving behind the island of shadows and monsters. The pursuit. The Cretans soon discovered the escape. King Minos was furious. He had been betrayed by his own daughter, and he had lost the tribute that had been the symbol of his power. He ordered his fleet to pursue the Athenians, but Theseus had a head start, and his ship was fast. The Athenian ship sailed through the night, navigating by the stars, desperate to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the enraged king. The journey. The ship sailed across the Aegean Sea, the waves crashing against its hull. The wind filled the sails, and the ship raced toward freedom. The Athenian youths looked back at Crete, the island of their nightmares, and they wept with joy. They were free. They were going home. But the journey was long and the sea was unpredictable. There were storms, and there were pirates, and there were the dangers of the deep. Part 3. The stop at Naxos. The ship sailed for several days, stopping at various islands to rest and resupply. One of these islands was Naxos, a beautiful and fertile island in the Cyclades. The crew was tired, and they needed to rest. They anchored in a sheltered bay, and they went ashore to gather supplies and to stretch their legs. It was on this island that the tragedy of Ariadne would unfold. The island of Naxos was a place of great beauty and mystery. It was an island that was sacred to the god Dionysus, the god of wine, fertility, and ecstasy. The island was covered in vineyards, and its inhabitants were known for their love of celebration and their devotion to their god. It was a place of pleasure and abandon, a place where the cares of the world could be forgotten. The abandonment of Ariadne. The exact details of Ariadne's abandonment are shrouded in mystery. Different versions of the myth offer different explanations for why Theseus left her on the island. In some versions, Theseus grew tired of her. He had used her to escape the labyrinth, and now that she was no longer useful, he abandoned her. In other versions, Theseus was commanded by the gods to leave her. The god Dionysus had fallen in love with Ariadne, and he demanded that Theseus give her up. In yet other versions, Ariadne simply fell asleep on the shore, and Theseus, in his haste to leave, sailed away without her. Regardless of the reason, the result was the same. Ariadne was left alone on the island of Naxos, a princess who had been betrayed by the man she loved. The betrayal. The betrayal of Ariadne is one of the most tragic moments in Greek mythology. She had risked everything for Theseus. She had betrayed her family, her kingdom, and her honor. She had given him the thread that had saved his life. And in return, he had abandoned her. She wept on the shore, a woman who had been used and discarded by the man she loved. Her screams of grief and rage echoed across the sea, a testament to the cruelty of the hero she had trusted. The redemption of Ariadne. But Ariadne was not destined to be a victim forever. The god Dionysus found her on the island, weeping on the shore. He was a god of immense power and compassion, and he was moved by her beauty and her sorrow. He fell in love with her, and he took her as his wife. He made her immortal, and he gave her a crown of stars that was placed in the heavens. Ariadne's story is a story of tragedy and redemption, of love and loss, of the power of the divine to heal the wounds of the mortal world. Part 4. The Legend of Ariadne's Crown. The story of Ariadne's crown is a beautiful and poignant tale. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is hope, that even the most terrible betrayals can lead to redemption. The gift of Dionysus. When Dionysus found Ariadne, he was filled with love and compassion. He wanted to give her a gift that would show her how much he loved her. He created a magnificent crown of stars, a symbol of her beauty and her divine nature. He placed the crown on her head, and he told her that she would never be forgotten. Her story would be told for generations, a testament to the power of love. The constellation Corona Borealis. The crown of Ariadne was placed in the heavens, where it became the constellation Corona Borealis, the northern crown. It is a beautiful constellation, a circle of stars that shimmers in the night sky. It is a reminder of Ariadne's story, a symbol of her redemption and her immortality. The constellation is a testament to the power of the gods to transform tragedy into beauty. The symbolism of the crown. The crown of Ariadne is a symbol of her love, her sacrifice, and her ultimate redemption. It is a reminder that even the most terrible betrayals can lead to something beautiful, that even the deepest sorrow can be transformed into joy. The crown is a symbol of hope, a reminder that the gods are always watching over us, even in our darkest moments. Part 5. The journey continues. After leaving Ariadne on Naxos, the ship sailed on. The Athenian youths were filled with a mixture of joy and sorrow. They were returning home, but they had left behind a princess who had saved their lives. Theseus was silent, lost in his thoughts. He had committed a terrible act of betrayal, and he would carry the guilt of his actions for the rest of his life. The voyage home. The ship sailed through the Aegean Sea, passing the islands of the Cyclades. They stopped at Delos, the sacred island of Apollo, where they performed a dance to honor the god. This dance, known as the crane dance, was said to imitate the twisting paths of the labyrinth, a symbolic reenactment of their escape from the maze. The Athenians danced in a circle, weaving in and out, a tribute to the thread that had saved their lives. It was a moment of joy and celebration, a brief respite from the sorrow of their journey. The forgetfulness of Theseus, but Theseus's mind was elsewhere. He was consumed by his thoughts of Ariadne, and he was haunted by the guilt of his betrayal. He had promised to marry her, and he had abandoned her. He had used her, and he had discarded her. The weight of his actions pressed down on him, and he was unable to think clearly. In his grief and confusion, he forgot the most important promise he had made. He forgot to change the black sail. Task 6. The Black Sail. The black sail was a symbol of grief and mourning. It was the sail that had been raised when the tribute ship departed from Athens, a constant reminder of the city's humiliation. Theseus had promised his father that if he returned alive, he would change the black sail to a white one. This was to be a sign of his victory, a message to his father that he was coming home alive. The promise. The promise to change the sail was a simple one, but it was a promise that carried immense weight. It was a promise that would determine the fate of Aegeus. If Theseus returned alive, the white sail would be a sign of joy. If he returned dead, the black sail would be a sign of grief. Aegeus had made his son promise to raise the white sail, and Theseus had given his word. The mistake. In his grief and confusion, Theseus forgot his promise. He did not change the sail. The black sail still flew, a symbol of mourning and death. He was so consumed by his own guilt that he neglected the one thing that could have saved his father. The ship sailed toward Athens, the black sail billowing in the wind. It was a mistake that would cost the hero dearly. Part 7. The Vigil of Aegeus. King Aegeus had been waiting for his son's return for weeks. He had watched the horizon from the cliffs of Cape Sunion, a lonely vigil that was filled with hope and fear. He had prayed to the gods for his son's safety, and he had promised to make a great sacrifice if Theseus returned alive. The cliffs of Cape Sunion. Cape Sunion was a promontory on the southern coast of Attica. It was a place of great beauty and solitude, a place where the sea met the sky. Aegeus had built a temple to Poseidon on the cliffs, a testament to his devotion to the god. It was from these cliffs that he would watch for his son's return. The wait day after day, Aegeus watched the horizon. He saw the ships of merchants, the ships of fishermen, but he did not see the black ship. He grew worried. He feared that his son had been killed in the labyrinth, that the Minotaur had devoured him. He grew desperate and he began to lose hope. The return. Finally, the black ship appeared on the horizon. Aegeus saw the black sail, and his heart broke. He had waited for so long, and he had hoped for so much. But the black sail was a sign of death, a sign that his son had been killed. He could not bear the grief. He was an old man, and he had lost everything he had loved. Part 8. The Death of Aegeus. The death of Aegeus is one of the most tragic moments in Greek mythology. It is a story of a father's grief, a hero's mistake, and the fragility of human life. The leap Aegeus, overcome by grief, threw himself from the cliffs. He fell into the sea, and his body was swallowed by the waves. He was dead, a victim of his own sorrow and his son's carelessness. The sea that swallowed him was named the Aegean Sea, a lasting monument to his tragedy. The discovery Theseus arrived home to find that his father was dead. He had won a great victory, but he had also caused a terrible tragedy. He was the king of Athens, but he was a king who was haunted by grief. The victory over the Minotaur was forever tinged with sorrow. He had saved his people, but he had lost his father. The grief of Theseus was devastated by his father's death. He had loved his father, and he had looked forward to seeing him again. But his mistake had cost his father his life. He was consumed by guilt, and he was unable to forgive himself. The weight of his sin would follow him for the rest of his life. Part 9. The Aftermath. Theseus was crowned king of Athens, but his reign was marked by tragedy. He had won a great victory, but he had also caused a great loss. He was a hero, but he was also a flawed human being. The king of Athens, Theseus, became one of the greatest kings of Athens. He united the city-state, he established its laws, and he made it a center of power and culture. He was a leader of immense vision and determination, a man who transformed his city into a great power. But his personal life was marked by tragedy and loss. The legacy of guilt. Theseus never forgave himself for his father's death. He was haunted by the memory of his mistake, and he carried the weight of his guilt for the rest of his life. His story is a reminder that even the greatest heroes are capable of making mistakes, and that even the most glorious victories can be tinged with sorrow. The enduring legacy. The story of Theseus and his father is a story of love and loss, of hope and despair. It is a story that has endured for thousands of years, a testament to the power of mythology to capture the human experience. The Aegean Sea, named after the grieving king, is a lasting reminder of the tragedy of Aegeus. Part 10. The Fate of Pasiphae. The story of the Minotaur did not end with the death of the creature. The family of Minos was torn apart by tragedy, and the queen who had given birth to the monster also faced a tragic fate. The end of Pasiphae. Pasiphae, the mother of the Minotaur, was a victim of her own desires. She had been cursed by Poseidon, and she had given birth to a monster. She had loved her child, but she could not protect him from the fate that awaited him. In some versions of the myth, she died in obscurity, a forgotten queen. In other versions, she was killed by Theseus or by the gods. Regardless of her fate, she was a tragic figure, a woman who had been used by the gods and abandoned by her family. The Curse of the House of Minos. The House of Minos was cursed. The king's arrogance, the queen's unnatural passion, and the birth of the monster had brought ruin upon the family. Minos lost his son, his daughter, and his wife. He was a king who had lost everything, a ruler who had been humiliated and destroyed. The story of the Minotaur is a story of the consequences of sin, the price of arrogance, and the power of fate. Hath. The Legend of the Tributes. The Tribute of the 7 Youths and 7 Maidens is a story of human sacrifice and divine punishment. It is a story that has resonated with audiences for thousands of years, a testament to the power of the myth. The symbolism of the tribute. The tribute was a symbol of Athenian humiliation, a constant reminder of the city's subjugation to Crete. It was also a symbol of the power of King Minos, a demonstration of his authority and his cruelty. The tribute was a punishment for the death of Androgeus, a reminder of the cost of Athenian arrogance. The tribute in art and literature. The story of the tribute has been a popular subject in art and literature for centuries. It has been depicted on vases, on reliefs, and in paintings. It has been the subject of plays, poems, and novels. The story of the tribute is a powerful symbol of the human capacity for cruelty and the human desire for justice. The tribute as a metaphor. The tribute has also become a metaphor for oppression and sacrifice. It is a reminder that innocent people are often made to suffer for the sins of the powerful. The tribute is a symbol of the injustice of the world, a reminder that the powerful often exploit the weak. Part 12. The Labyrinth as a Metaphor. The labyrinth is a powerful symbol that has been used in art, literature, and psychology for centuries. It is a metaphor for the complexity of life, the challenges of the human condition, and the journey of self-discovery. The labyrinth is a symbol of the mind. In psychology, the labyrinth is a symbol of the unconscious mind. It represents the hidden depths of the psyche, the place where our fears and desires are buried. The labyrinth is a symbol of the journey inward, the confrontation with the darkness that lies within. The hero who enters the labyrinth and emerges victorious is a symbol of the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. The labyrinth as a symbol of life. The labyrinth is also a symbol of life itself. Life is a journey, a path that is full of twists and turns, dead ends and false starts. The labyrinth is a reminder that we must navigate the complexities of life with courage and determination. We must be willing to face our fears, to confront the monsters that lurk in the shadows, and to find our way out of the darkness. The labyrinth is a symbol of redemption. The labyrinth is also a symbol of redemption. It is a place of trial and suffering, but it is also a place of transformation and renewal. The hero who enters the labyrinth and emerges victorious is a symbol of the possibility of change, the hope that even the darkest of times can lead to something better. Part 13. The Legacy of the Myth. The myth of the Minotaur has endured for thousands of years. It is a story that has been told and retold, adapted and reinterpreted by countless generations. Its legacy is a testament to the enduring power of mythology, the power of stories to capture the human imagination. The Minotaur in modern culture. The Minotaur has become a ubiquitous figure in modern culture. It appears in films, television shows, video games, and literature. It is a symbol of terror and tragedy, a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the human heart. The Minotaur is a monster, but it is also a victim, a creature that was born from sin and tragedy. The Minotaur as a symbol. The Minotaur has become a symbol of the other, the outsider who is feared and hated. It is a reminder of the dangers of prejudice and intolerance, the tendency to demonize those who are different from us. The Minotaur is a symbol of the darkness that we all carry within us, the part of ourselves that we try to hide. The Minotaur as a tragic figure. In recent years, the Minotaur has been reinterpreted as a tragic figure, a victim of his own nature and the cruelty of the world. He is a creature who was born into a world of violence and suffering, a being who was never given a chance to be anything other than a monster. This reinterpretation is a testament to the enduring power of the myth, the ability of stories to evolve and to speak to new generations. Fate. Part 14. The Final Reflection. As we come to the end of this chapter, we must reflect on the flight and the fall. The story of Theseus is a story of triumph and tragedy, of love and loss, of hope and despair. It is a story that reveals the complexity of the human condition, the fragility of human happiness, and the power of fate. The price of victory. Theseus won a great victory, but he also paid a terrible price. He lost his father, he betrayed his lover, and he carried the weight of his guilt for the rest of his life. His story is a reminder that victory is never without its costs, that even the greatest triumphs are often tinged with sorrow. The power of mistakes. Theseus's mistake, the forgetting of the white sail, was a small error that had a devastating consequence. It is a reminder that even the smallest mistakes can have the greatest impacts, that our actions have consequences that we cannot always foresee. The enduring legacy. The story of Theseus and the Minotaur is a story that will never be forgotten. It is a story of courage and determination, of sacrifice and tragedy. It is a story that speaks to the deepest truths of the human condition. It is a story of the hero who confronts the darkness and emerges victorious, but who also pays a price for his victory. Theseus is a hero, but he is also a human being, a man who is capable of making mistakes. A final thought. The story of the Minotaur is a story of the human heart. It is a story of love and betrayal, of hope and despair, of triumph and tragedy. It is a story that has been told for thousands of years, and it will continue to be told for thousands of years to come. It is a story that reminds us that even in the darkest of times there is hope, that even the most terrible monsters can be defeated, and that even the greatest heroes are capable of making mistakes. The flight of Theseus from Crete was the beginning of a new chapter in his life, a chapter that was marked by tragedy and loss. But it was also a chapter that would define his legacy, a chapter that would make him one of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology. The story of Theseus is a story of the human condition, a story of the triumphs and the tragedies that define our lives. Chapter 5. The Many Faces of the Minotaur. Part 1. The Myth in Motion. The story of the Minotaur is not a single fixed narrative. Like all great myths, it has been told and retold, adapted and reinterpreted by countless generations. Each storyteller, each poet, each playwright has added their own flourishes, their own interpretations, and their own details. The Minotaur has been a monster, a victim, a symbol, and a tragedy. He has been portrayed as a mindless beast and as a creature of intelligence and sorrow. His story has been used to explore themes of power, justice, and the human condition. In this chapter, we will explore the many faces of the Minotaur. We will examine the alternative versions of the myth, the lost tales, and the fascinating variations that reveal the true depth and complexity of this enduring story. We will see how the Minotaur has been portrayed in different times and different cultures, and we will discover the rich tapestry of interpretations that have made this myth one of the most enduring in all of history. Part 2. The Earliest Versions. The Monster of the Maze. The earliest known references to the Minotaur date back to the 8th century BCE, to the works of Homer and Hesiod. In the Iliad, Homer mentions the labyrinth that Daedalus built for Ariadne, but he does not mention the Minotaur. Hesiod, in his Theogony, mentions the lineage of the Minotaur, but he does not provide a detailed narrative. The Archaic Period. The earliest artistic depictions of the Minotaur from the Archaic period, c. says 800–500 BCE, show him as a monstrous figure, a creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man. He is often depicted in scenes of combat, battling heroes or being slain by Theseus. He is a symbol of chaos and savagery, a creature that must be defeated to bring order to the world. The Gorton Code. One of the most fascinating early references to the Minotaur comes from the Gorton Code, a legal text from the city of Gorton in Crete, dating to the 5th century BCE. The code mentions the Minotaur in the context of a law that prohibits the sacrifice of humans. This suggests that the myth of the Minotaur may have been used as a justification for the prohibition of human sacrifice, a reminder of the barbarity of such practices. Part 3. The Poetic Versions. The Tragic Victim. The Roman poet Ovid, writing in the 1st century CE, created one of the most famous and influential versions of the Minotaur myth. In his Metamorphoses, he tells the story of the monster with a focus on the tragedy of his birth and the cruelty of his fate. Ovid's Minotaur. Ovid's version of the myth is a story of suffering and injustice. The Minotaur is a creature who is born from a curse, a being who is imprisoned in a maze and forced to feed on human flesh. He is a victim of his parents' sins, a creature who is denied any chance of redemption. Ovid's Minotaur is a symbol of the tragedy of existence, a reminder of the cruelty of the gods and the suffering of the innocent. The Metamorphoses. Ovid's Metamorphoses is a collection of myths that explore the theme of transformation. The story of the Minotaur is a story of transformation, a tale of how a human being can be transformed into a monster. Pasiphae's love for the bull transforms her into a creature of unnatural passion. The Minotaur's birth transforms him into a creature of violence and terror. The myth is a meditation on the power of desire and the consequences of sin. The influence of Ovid. Ovid's version of the Minotaur myth has had a profound impact on Western culture. It is the version that is most often depicted in art and literature, and it is the version that has shaped our modern understanding of the monster. Ovid's Minotaur is a tragic figure, a creature of sorrow and suffering. His story is a testament to the enduring power of mythology to capture the human experience. Part 4. The philosophical versions, the symbol of the soul. In the works of the Greek philosophers, the Minotaur was sometimes used as a symbol of the soul, a representation of the inner struggles of the human psyche. Plato's Minotaur. Plato, the great philosopher of ancient Greece, used the myth of the Minotaur as an allegory for the soul. He saw the Minotaur as a symbol of the appetitive part of the soul, the part that is driven by desire and instinct. Theseus, the hero, represents the rational part of the soul, the part that is capable of reason and self-control. The Labyrinth, in this interpretation, represents the complexity of the human mind, the confusion and chaos of our inner lives. The allegory of the cave. Plato's famous allegory of the cave is often compared to the story of the labyrinth. In the allegory, prisoners are chained in a cave, and they mistake the shadows on the wall for reality. The hero who escapes the cave and sees the light of the sun represents the philosopher who achieves enlightenment. The labyrinth, like the cave, is a place of confusion and ignorance, a place where the truth is hidden. The Neoplatonic interpretation. The Neoplatonists, a school of philosophy that flourished in the Roman Empire, also used the myth of the Minotaur as an allegory for the soul. They saw the Minotaur as a symbol of the lower self, the part of the soul that is bound to the material world. Theseus, the hero, represents the higher self, the part of the soul that seeks union with the divine. The labyrinth, in this interpretation, represents the journey of the soul back to God. Part 5. The medieval versions. The monster of sin. In the Middle Ages, the Minotaur was often interpreted as a symbol of sin and evil. He was a demonic figure, a creature of darkness and corruption. The Christian interpretation. The Christian interpretation of the Minotaur focused on his monstrous nature. He was seen as a symbol of the devil, a creature of evil and temptation. The labyrinth was interpreted as a symbol of sin, the maze of temptation that leads souls astray. Theseus, the hero, represented Christ, the Savior who defeats the devil and redeems humanity. The Dante connection. Dante Alighieri, the great Italian poet, may have been influenced by the myth of the Minotaur in his Divine Comedy. In the Inferno, Dante describes the Minotaur as a guardian of the circle of the violent. He is a creature of rage and destruction, a symbol of the sins of violence and cruelty. The Minotaur as a moral lesson. The medieval interpretation of the Minotaur was a moral lesson. It was a warning against the dangers of sin and a reminder of the power of faith. The Minotaur was a symbol of the darkness that lurks within the human heart, a reminder that we all have the capacity for evil. Part 6. The modern versions. The tragic anti-hero. In the modern era, the Minotaur has been reinterpreted as a tragic figure, a victim of circumstance and a symbol of the oppressed. The Minotaur as a victim. Modern interpretations of the Minotaur often focus on his tragic origins. He is a creature who was born from a curse, a being who was imprisoned in a maze and forced to feed on human flesh. He is a victim of his parents' sins, a creature who is denied any chance of redemption. This interpretation is a reflection of the modern concern with the rights of the individual and the condemnation of oppression. The Minotaur as a symbol of the other. The Minotaur has also been interpreted as a symbol of the other, the outsider who is feared and hated. He is a creature who is different, a being who does not fit into the categories of human society. This interpretation is a reminder of the dangers of prejudice and intolerance, the tendency to demonize those who are different from us. The Minotaur in popular culture. The Minotaur has become a ubiquitous figure in modern popular culture. He appears in films, television shows, video games, and literature. He is often portrayed as a monster, but he is sometimes a sympathetic figure, a creature who is struggling to find his place in the world. The Minotaur is a symbol of the complexity of the human condition, a reminder that even the most terrifying creatures can have a story worth telling. Crete. Part 7. The Story of Icarus. The story of Icarus is inextricably linked to the story of the Minotaur. Daedalus, the builder of the Labyrinth, was also the father of Icarus. The two stories are intertwined, and they together form a powerful narrative about the dangers of ambition and the consequences of disobedience. The wings of Daedalus. After Theseus escaped from the Labyrinth, King Minos was furious. He blamed Daedalus for helping the hero and the princess. He imprisoned Daedalus and his son Icarus in the labyrinth. But Daedalus was a genius, and he was not a man who would be confined. He devised a plan to escape. He gathered feathers from the birds that flew over the labyrinth, and he used wax to bind them together. He created 2 pairs of wings, one for himself and one for his son. The warning Daedalus warned Icarus not to fly too close to the sun, for the wax would melt, and not too close to the sea, for the moisture would weigh down the wings. He instructed his son to follow him, to fly at a moderate height, and to trust the wings. He told him that the journey would be dangerous, but that it was the only way to escape. The flight Daedalus and Icarus took to the sky, flying above the island of Crete. It was a beautiful and exhilarating experience, a moment of pure freedom. Icarus was delighted by the sensation of flight, and he forgot his father's warning. He flew higher and higher, closer and closer to the sun. The fall, the wax that held his wings together began to melt. The feathers came loose, and Icarus fell into the sea. He drowned, a victim of his own ambition. Daedalus could not save his son. He flew to the island of Sicily, where he mourned his child. The symbolism of Icarus. The story of Icarus is a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition and the consequences of disobedience. It is a reminder that we must not overreach, that we must respect the limits of our abilities. Icarus is a symbol of the human desire for freedom and the tragic consequences of its pursuit. Taught. The fate of Daedalus. Daedalus survived the fall of Icarus, but he was a broken man. He had lost his son, and he had lost his reputation. He fled to Sicily, where he found refuge with King Cocalus. The refuge in Sicily, King Cocalus welcomed Daedalus and gave him a place to live. Daedalus built magnificent temples and palaces for the king, and he was treated with honor and respect. But his past would not leave him. King Minos was still seeking revenge. The pursuit of Minos discovered that Daedalus was in Sicily, and he demanded that he be returned to Crete. Cocalus was reluctant to betray his guest, but he could not refuse the powerful king. He invited Minos to his palace, and he agreed to hand over Daedalus. The death of Minos, but the Sicilians had a plan. They did not intend to let Minos harm their guest. They heated the bathwater to a scalding temperature, and they killed Minos by burning him alive. Daedalus was safe, but the king of Crete was dead. The curse of the house of Minos had claimed another victim. The legacy of Daedalus. Daedalus died in Sicily, a broken and isolated man. He was a genius, but he was also a man of immense tragedy. He had built the labyrinth, he had helped the queen, he had lost his son, and he had been responsible for the death of a king. His story is a story of the price of genius, the cost of ambition, and the tragedy of a life lived in the shadows. Part 9. The Fate of Pasiphae. The story of Pasiphae, the mother of the Minotaur, is a story of tragedy and redemption. She was a queen, a sorceress, and a victim of divine punishment. The queen's sorrow. Pasiphae loved her monstrous child. She nursed him and cared for him while he was a calf. But as he grew, so did his monstrous nature. She could not protect him from the world, and she could not save him from his fate. She was a mother who was forced to watch her child suffer. The Queen's exile. In some versions of the myth, Pasiphae was exiled from Crete after the birth of the Minotaur. She was a reminder of the curse that had been placed upon the royal house, and she could not be allowed to remain. She wandered the Greek world, a queen without a kingdom. The Queen's redemption. In other versions of the myth, Pasiphae was eventually redeemed. She was a sorceress, and she used her powers to help others. She was a healer, a wise woman, and a figure of compassion. Her story is a story of the power of love and the possibility of redemption. 4. Part 10. The Fate of Ariadne. The story of Ariadne is a story of love, betrayal, and redemption. She was a princess who fell in love with a hero, a woman who was abandoned by the man she loved, and a goddess who was transformed by divine love. The princess's love, Ariadne, fell in love with Theseus at first sight. She was captivated by his beauty and his courage. She risked everything to save him, and she gave him the thread that guided him through the labyrinth. She was a woman of immense courage and compassion. The princess's betrayal, Ariadne, was betrayed by Theseus. He abandoned her on the island of Naxos, a victim of his own carelessness or his cruelty. She was left alone, a princess without a kingdom and without a lover. The princess's redemption, Ariadne, was found by the god Dionysus. He fell in love with her, and he made her his wife. He gave her a crown of stars, and he made her immortal. Ariadne's story is a story of tragedy and redemption, a testament to the power of divine love to heal the wounds of the mortal world. Part 11. The Minotaur in Art and Literature. The Minotaur has been a source of inspiration for artists and writers for thousands of years. His image is one of the most iconic in all of Western culture. The Minotaur in ancient art. The Minotaur was a popular subject in ancient Greek art. He was depicted on vases, on reliefs, and on coins. The image of Theseus slaying the Minotaur was a symbol of the triumph of civilization over savagery, of order over chaos. The Minotaur in Renaissance art. The Renaissance saw a revival of interest in classical mythology. The Minotaur was a popular subject for artists such as Michelangelo and Titian. They portrayed him as a symbol of the monstrous and the sublime, a creature of immense power and terror. The Minotaur in modern art. Modern artists have also been fascinated by the Minotaur. Pablo Picasso, the great Spanish artist, created a series of works depicting the Minotaur. He portrayed him as a tragic figure, a creature of violence and suffering. Picasso's Minotaur is a symbol of the brutality of the modern world. The Minotaur in literature. The Minotaur has been a subject of literature for centuries. He appears in the works of Dante, Shakespeare, and Nietzsche. He has been the subject of countless poems, plays, and novels. The Minotaur is a symbol of the darkness that lurks within the human heart, a reminder of the capacity for evil that exists within us all. Part 12. The Final Reflection. As we come to the end of this chapter, we must reflect on the many faces of the Minotaur. He is a monster, a victim, a symbol, and a tragedy. He is a figure of immense power and complexity, a creature who has captured the human imagination for thousands of years. The monster. The Minotaur is a monster, a creature of violence and terror. He is a symbol of the chaos that lurks beneath the surface of the world, a reminder of the dangers of the untamed. The victim. The Minotaur is also a victim. He is a creature who was born from a curse, a being who was imprisoned in a maze and forced to feed on human flesh. He is a victim of his parents' sins, a creature who is denied any chance of redemption. The symbol. The Minotaur is a symbol. He is a symbol of the other, the outsider who is feared and hated. He is a symbol of the darkness that lurks within the human heart, the part of ourselves that we try to hide. A final thought. The story of the Minotaur is a story of the human condition. It is a story of love and betrayal, of hope and despair, of triumph and tragedy. It is a story that speaks to the deepest truths of the human experience, a story that will continue to be told for as long as we dream and imagine. The Minotaur is a creature of the shadows, a monster who dwells in the darkness of the labyrinth. But he is also a creature of the light, a symbol of the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. He is a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is hope, that even the most terrible monsters can be defeated, and that even the greatest tragedies can lead to redemption. Chapter 6, The Bull in Myth and Legend. Part 1, The Sacred Beast. Before the Minotaur, before the Labyrinth, before the tribute and the hero, there was the bull. The bull is one of the most ancient and powerful symbols in human history, a creature of immense strength, virility, and mystery. It appears in the mythologies of virtually every culture on Earth, from the caves of Lascaux to the temples of Egypt, from the palaces of Crete to the battlefields of Mesopotamia. The bull is a symbol of power, fertility, and the divine. It is a creature that is both feared and revered, a being that embodies the untamable forces of nature. The story of the Minotaur is inextricably linked to the symbolism of the bull. The creature is part bull and part man, a fusion of the human and the divine, the civilized and the savage. The bull is the father of the Minotaur, the source of his monstrous nature. To understand the Minotaur, one must understand the bull. In this chapter, we will explore the symbolism of the bull in Greek mythology and beyond. We will examine the Cretan bull, the Marathonian bull, and the seventh labor of Heracles. We will trace the bull's journey through the myths of the ancient world, and we will discover the deeper meanings of this powerful and enduring symbol. C. Part 2, The Bull in Ancient Religion. The bull was a central figure in the religions of the ancient Near East and the Mediterranean. It was a symbol of strength, fertility, and divine power. The bull in Mesopotamia. In ancient Mesopotamia, the bull was associated with the gods. The god Adad, the god of storms, was often depicted riding a bull. The god Sin, the god of the moon, was also associated with the bull. The bull was a symbol of divine power, a creature that embodied the strength and authority of the gods. The bull in Egypt. In ancient Egypt, the bull was a sacred animal. The Apis bull was worshipped as a living embodiment of the god Ptah. The Apis bull was a symbol of fertility and strength, a creature that was believed to bring blessings to the land. The bull was also associated with the god Osiris, the god of the underworld, and with the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love and fertility. The bull in Anatolia. In ancient Anatolia, the bull was associated with the storm god. The Hittites and the Hurrians worshipped a bull god, who was a symbol of power and authority. The bull was a creature of the sky, a being who could bring rain and thunder. The bull in the Levant. In the ancient Levant, the bull was associated with the god Baal, the god of storms and fertility. Baal was often depicted with bull horns, a symbol of his power and virility. The bull was a creature of the earth, a being who could bring life to the land. 3. The bull in Minoan Crete. The bull was a central figure in the religion and culture of Minoan Crete. The frescoes at Knossos depict young men and women engaging in the dangerous sport of bull leaping, a ritual that honored the bull's power and celebrated the courage of the participants. The frescoes of Knossos. The bull frescoes at Knossos are among the most famous works of art from the ancient world. They depict athletes vaulting over the horns of charging bulls, a feat of immense courage and skill. The frescoes are a testament to the importance of the bull in Minoan culture, a symbol of the strength and vitality of the Minoan people. The bull leaping ritual. Bull leaping was likely a religious ritual, a way of honoring the bull and the gods. The athletes would demonstrate their courage and their skill, proving themselves worthy of the divine favor. The ritual was a celebration of life, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most formidable challenges. The bull as a symbol of power. The bull was a symbol of power in Minoan Crete. It was a creature of immense strength and virility, a being that embodied the authority of the king and the prosperity of the kingdom. The bull was a symbol of the Minoan civilization itself, a testament to its wealth and its power. Part 4. The Cretan Bull. The Cretan bull is the father of the Minotaur, the creature that Poseidon sent from the sea as a sign of his favor to King Minos. Its story is a story of divine punishment, of hubris, and of the tragic consequences of human arrogance. The gift of Poseidon. The Cretan bull was a gift from Poseidon to King Minos. It was a magnificent creature, a symbol of the god's power and favor. The bull was a sign that Minos was the rightful king of Crete, a validation of his claim to the throne. The treachery of Minos was supposed to sacrifice the bull to Poseidon, but he was overcome by its beauty. He could not bear to kill such a magnificent creature, and he decided to keep it for himself. He sacrificed a lesser animal in its place, a transgression that would have terrible consequences. The punishment of Poseidon was furious. He had been insulted, and he would not let the transgression go unpunished. He cursed Minos' wife Pasiphae with an unnatural desire for the bull. The queen's passion led to the birth of the Minotaur, a creature that would bring ruin upon the house of Minos. The fate of the bull. After the birth of the Minotaur, the Cretan bull was no longer of use to King Minos. In some versions of the myth, the bull was allowed to roam free, a symbol of the curse that had been placed upon the royal house. In others, Minos tried to destroy the creature but failed. The bull escaped from Crete, and it wandered the Greek world, a symbol of the chaos and destruction that Minos had unleashed. Part 5. The Marathonian Bull. The Cretan bull eventually found its way to the region of Marathon, a plain in Attica. There it ravaged the countryside, killing livestock and terrorizing the people. The bull was a creature of immense power, and no one could stop it. The terror of Marathonian bull was a terror to the people of Attica. It destroyed crops, killed livestock, and attacked travelers. The people lived in fear, unable to stop the creature that was ravaging their land. The bull was a symbol of the chaos that could be unleashed by the gods, a reminder of the power of nature to disrupt human civilization. The hero's task. The bull was finally captured by Heracles, the greatest hero of Greek mythology. Heracles was tasked with capturing the bull as one of his 12 labors. He traveled to Marathon and he wrestled the bull to the ground. He brought the bull back to King Eurystheus, who was horrified by the creature. Eurystheus set the bull free, and the bull wandered the Greek world once again. The bull and Androgeos. In some versions of the myth, it was the Marathonian bull that killed Androgeos, the son of King Minos. Androgeos was sent to Marathon to slay the bull, but he was gored to death by the beast. This version of the myth adds a tragic irony to the story. The bull that was the cause of Minos' curse also killed his son, a fitting punishment for the king's arrogance. Part 6. The seventh labor of Heracles. The capture of the Cretan bull was one of the 12 labors of Heracles. It was a feat of immense strength and courage, a testament to the hero's power and determination. The labor Heracles was tasked with capturing the Cretan bull as his 7th labor. He traveled to Crete, where he met King Minos. The king, eager to be rid of the creature, allowed Heracles to take the bull. Heracles wrestled the bull to the ground, a feat of immense strength and skill. He then brought the bull back to King Eurystheus. The journey Heracles' journey back to Greece was a long and difficult one. He had to transport the bull across the sea, a task that was complicated by the creature's immense size and strength. But Heracles was a master of the impossible, and he managed to bring the bull back to Mycenae. The fate of the bull Eurystheus was terrified of the bull. He refused to keep it, and he set it free. The bull wandered the Greek world, eventually finding its way to the region of Marathon. It was there that it was eventually slain by Theseus, who would use its capture as a stepping stone on his journey to Athens. The connection to the Minotaur. The story of the Cretan bull is a crucial part of the Minotaur myth. The bull is the father of the Minotaur, and its capture by Heracles is a reminder of the power of the hero. The bull's eventual fate, being slain by Theseus, is a symbol of the connection between the two heroes, a link between the old generation of heroes and the new. Part 7. The Bull in Greek Mythology. The bull was a powerful symbol in Greek mythology, appearing in many of the most famous myths. It was a creature of immense strength and significance, a symbol of the divine and the monstrous. The bull in Zeus, the king of the gods, was often associated with the bull. He took the form of a bull when he abducted Europa, the Phoenician princess. He also took the form of a bull when he appeared to the god Dionysus. The bull was a symbol of Zeus's power and virility, a testament to his divine authority. The bull in Poseidon, the god of the sea, was also associated with the bull. He sent the Cretan bull to Minos as a sign of his favor, and he was often depicted with bulls in his temples. The bull was a symbol of Poseidon's power over the sea and the earth, a testament to his authority. The bull and Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstasy, was also associated with the bull. He was often depicted with bull horns, a symbol of his power and his connection to the forces of nature. The bull was a symbol of Dionysus's wild and untamable nature, a testament to his divine frenzy. The bull and the heroes. The bull was a common foe for the heroes of Greek mythology. Theseus slew the Marathonian bull, Heracles captured the Cretan bull, and Jason faced the bull-like creatures of Colchis. The bull was a symbol of the challenges that the heroes had to overcome, a testament to their courage and their strength. Part 8. The Symbolism of the Bull. The bull is a powerful symbol that has been used in art, literature, and religion for thousands of years. It is a symbol of strength, fertility, and the divine. It is also a symbol of chaos, violence, and the untamable forces of nature. The bull as a symbol of strength. The bull is a symbol of strength and power. It is a creature of immense size and muscle, a being that can crush its enemies with a single blow. The bull is a reminder of the power that lies within all of us, the potential for strength and courage. The bull as a symbol of fertility. The bull is a symbol of fertility and virility. It is a creature of immense sexual potency, a being that can create life. The bull is a reminder of the cycle of life, the power of nature to create and to sustain. The bull as a symbol of the divine. The bull is a symbol of the divine, a creature that is associated with the gods and their power. It is a being that is both feared and revered, a symbol of the mystery and the majesty of the divine. The bull as a symbol of chaos. The bull is also a symbol of chaos and violence. It is a creature that can be destructive, a being that can wreak havoc on the world. The bull is a reminder of the dangers of the untamed, the power of nature to disrupt human civilization. Sertube. Part 9. The bull in modern culture. The bull continues to be a powerful symbol in modern culture. It appears in art, literature, and popular culture, a reminder of the enduring power of this ancient symbol. The bull in art. The bull has been a source of inspiration for artists for centuries. It appears in the works of Picasso, the paintings of the Lascaux caves, and the sculptures of the ancient world. The bull is a symbol of power and mystery, a creature that captures the imagination of artists and viewers alike. The bull in literature. The bull has been a subject of literature for centuries. It appears in the works of Homer, Ovid and Virgil. It has been the subject of countless poems, plays, and novels. The bull is a symbol of the human condition, a reminder of the power and the danger of the natural world. The bull in popular culture. The bull is a ubiquitous figure in popular culture. It appears in films, television shows, and video games. It is a symbol of strength and power, a creature that is both feared and admired. The bull is a reminder of the enduring power of myth, the ability of ancient stories to capture the modern imagination. Double Ace, Part 10, The Final Reflection. As we come to the end of this chapter, we must reflect on the bull in myth and legend. The bull is a symbol of immense power and complexity, a creature that has been a part of human culture for thousands of years. The sacred beast. The bull is a sacred beast, a creature that is associated with the gods and the divine. It is a symbol of strength, fertility, and power. It is a reminder of the mystery and the majesty of the natural world. The monstrous beast. The bull is also a monstrous beast, a creature of violence and chaos. It is a symbol of the dangers of the untamed, the power of nature to disrupt human civilization. It is a reminder of the fragility of human existence. The enduring legacy. The bull is a symbol that will endure for as long as human beings tell stories. It is a creature that embodies the deepest fears and desires of the human heart. It is a symbol of power and mystery, of creation and destruction, of life and death. A final thought. The story of the Minotaur is a story of the bull. It is a story of the power of the bull, the danger of the bull, and the mystery of the bull. The Minotaur is a creature that is part bull and part man, a fusion of the human and the divine, the civilized and the savage. His story is a reminder of the power of myth to capture the human experience, to explore the deepest truths of the human condition. The bull is a symbol that will never die. It is a creature that has haunted the human imagination for thousands of years, a being that embodies the deepest mysteries of life and death. It is a symbol of the eternal, the infinite, the unknowable. And the Minotaur, with his bull's head and his man's body, is a symbol of this eternal truth. He is the bull made flesh, a creature of the shadows, a guardian of the mysteries. Chapter 7. The Eternal Labyrinth. Part 1. The Enduring Maze. We have journeyed through the depths of the labyrinth, traced the bloodline of the Minotaur, and followed the hero Theseus from his secret birth to his tragic homecoming. We have explored the many faces of the monster, the symbolism of the bull, and the rich tapestry of interpretations that have made this myth one of the most enduring in all of human history. And now we come to the final chapter of this story, the chapter that explores the legacy of the Minotaur in the modern world. The Minotaur has not faded into the mists of history. He has not been forgotten. On the contrary, he has experienced a remarkable renaissance in the modern era, a reclamation that has transformed him from a simple monster into a complex symbol of the human condition. In a world that is still grappling with issues of identity, oppression, and the nature of evil, the Minotaur's story has never been more relevant. He has become a mirror for our own fears, desires, and aspirations, a figure who continues to evolve and to inspire. This chapter is the culmination of our journey, the final piece of the puzzle that completes the portrait of the Minotaur. We will explore his presence in modern art, literature, and popular culture. We will examine his role as a symbol of the other, a figure of tragedy, and a representation of the darkness that lurks within the human heart. We will trace his journey from the ancient world to the digital age, showing how his image and his story have been adapted, reinterpreted, and reclaimed by each new generation. We will see how the Minotaur has become a mirror for our own fears, desires, and aspirations, a figure who continues to evolve and to inspire. The story of the Minotaur is a story of transformation, and his transformation is not yet complete. He is still changing, still growing, still speaking to us across the ages. He is the eternal monster, a figure who will never be forgotten. Let us now explore his modern legacy and discover why his story continues to captivate the human imagination. Part 2. The Minotaur in Modern Art. The image of the Minotaur has been a source of inspiration for artists for centuries, and the modern era is no exception. From the painters of the Renaissance to the sculptors of the contemporary world, artists have been drawn to his tragic beauty and his powerful symbolism. Picasso's Minotaur. The Spanish artist Pablo Picasso was perhaps the most famous modern artist to be fascinated by the Minotaur. He created a series of works depicting the creature, from etchings to paintings to sculptures. Picasso's Minotaur is not a simple monster. He is a complex and tragic figure, a symbol of the brutality and the suffering of the modern world. In some of Picasso's works, the Minotaur is a victim, a creature who is hunted and killed. In others, he is a predator, a symbol of the violence that lurks within the human heart. Picasso's Minotaur is a reflection of the artist's own fears and anxieties, a testament to the power of the myth to capture the human experience. The Minotaur in Surrealism. The Surrealists were also drawn to the Minotaur as a symbol of the unconscious, the dark and irrational forces of the mind. Artists like Salvador Dali and Max Ernst created images of the Minotaur that explored the themes of desire, fear, and transformation. Their Minotaurs were not just monsters, they were symbols of the hidden depths of the human psyche. The Minotaur in contemporary art. Contemporary arts continue to be inspired by the Minotaur. They have used his image to explore themes of identity, oppression, and the nature of evil. The Minotaur has been portrayed as a victim, a monster, and a tragic hero. His image is a powerful symbol of the human condition, a reminder of the complexity and the contradiction of the human heart. Part 3. The Minotaur in Modern Literature. The Minotaur has also been a subject of fascination for modern writers. From poetry to fiction to drama, his story has been retold and reimagined in countless ways. The Minotaur in Poetry. The poet Jorge Luis Borges wrote a poem titled The Minotaur, which explores the creature's isolation and his suffering. Borges's Minotaur is a tragic figure, a being who is trapped in the labyrinth of his own existence. The poem is a meditation on the nature of identity and the loneliness of the human condition. The Minotaur in Fiction. The Minotaur has appeared in numerous works of fiction, from children's books to adult fantasy novels. He is often portrayed as a tragic figure, a victim of his own nature and the cruelty of the world. He is sometimes a villain, sometimes a hero, and sometimes something in between. His story is a rich source of inspiration for writers, a tale that can be adapted to suit a wide variety of genres. The Minotaur in feminist literature. Feminist writers have also been drawn to the Minotaur's story, particularly the figure of Pasiphae. She is seen as a victim of patriarchal oppression, a woman who was cursed by the gods and punished for her desires. The Minotaur, in this interpretation, is a symbol of the monstrous feminine, the power of women that is feared and suppressed by men. The Minotaur in young adult fiction. In recent years, the Minotaur has become a popular figure in young adult fiction. He is often portrayed as a sympathetic character, a teenager who is struggling with his own identity and his own power. His story is a coming-of-age tale, a story about finding strength in the face of adversity. These modern interpretations of the Minotaur are a testament to his enduring appeal. Part 4. The Minotaur in Popular Culture. The Minotaur is a ubiquitous figure in popular culture. He appears in movies, television shows, video games, comic books, and even music. His image is instantly recognizable, a symbol that transcends the boundaries of time and culture. The Minotaur in film. The Minotaur has been featured in numerous films, from the classic Clash of the Titans to more modern interpretations. In the 1981 film Clash of the Titans, he is a terrifying creature that is defeated by the hero Perseus. In the 2010 remake, he is a more sympathetic figure, a creature who is trapped in the labyrinth and who is killed by the hero. The Minotaur has also appeared in films like Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, where he is a villainous figure, and in the animated film The Adventures of Perseus. The Minotaur in television. The Minotaur has appeared in numerous television shows, from Doctor Who to Once Upon a Time. He is often portrayed as a villain or a monster, but he is sometimes a more complex character. In the animated series Clash of the Titans, he is a recurring antagonist. In the show The Almighty Johnsons, he is a god who is trying to find his place in the modern world. The Minotaur in video games. The Minotaur is a popular character in video games. He appears in games like God of War, Castlevania, and Final Fantasy. He is often a boss character, a powerful enemy that the player must defeat. In the game Hades, he is a character who is both a friend and a foe, a complex figure who is struggling with his own identity. This portrayal is a testament to the versatility of the Minotaur myth. The Minotaur in comic books. The Minotaur has appeared in numerous comic books, from Marvel to DC to independent publishers. He is often portrayed as a villain, but he is sometimes a hero or an anti-hero. His story is a rich source of inspiration for comic book writers, a tale that can be adapted to suit a wide variety of genres. Part 5. The Minotaur as a symbol of the other. In the modern era, the Minotaur has been reclaimed as a powerful symbol of the other, the outsider who is feared and hated. He represents the marginalized, the oppressed, and the excluded. The Minotaur and identity. The Minotaur is a creature who is caught between two worlds. He is part bull and part man, a being who does not fit into any category. He is a symbol of the struggle for identity, the search for a place in a world that does not understand him. His story is a reminder that we are all, in some ways, outsiders, that we all struggle to find our place in the world. The Minotaur and oppression. The Minotaur is also a symbol of oppression. He is imprisoned in the labyrinth, a victim of the cruelty of King Minos. He is forced to feed on human flesh, a monstrous act that he did not choose. His story is a reminder of the dangers of oppression, the power of the powerful to exploit the weak. The Minotaur and prejudice. The Minotaur is a symbol of prejudice. He is feared and hated because of his appearance, because he is different. He is a reminder of the dangers of prejudice, the tendency to demonize those who are different from us. His story is a call for tolerance, a reminder that we should not judge others by their appearance. Part 6. The Minotaur as a tragic figure. In recent years, the Minotaur has been reinterpreted as a tragic figure, a victim of his own nature and the cruelty of the world. He is not a simple monster. He is a complex and suffering being. The Minotaur's suffering. The Minotaur's life is a life of suffering. He is imprisoned in the labyrinth, a creature of isolation and violence. He is forced to feed on human flesh, a monstrous act that brings him no pleasure. He is a victim of his own nature, a creature who is trapped in a cycle of violence and despair. The Minotaur's humanity. Despite his monstrous appearance, the Minotaur is a creature of humanity. He has thoughts and feelings, desires and dreams. He is not a mindless beast. He is a being of intelligence and emotion. His story is a reminder that even the most monstrous creatures can have a human heart. The Minotaur's tragedy. The Minotaur's tragedy is that he is denied any chance of redemption. He is born into a world of violence and suffering, and he is never given a chance to be anything other than a monster. His story is a reminder of the tragedy of a life that is lived in the shadows, a life that is denied the light of hope. Part 7. the Minotaur and the Labyrinth of the Mind. The labyrinth is not just a physical maze, it is a symbol of the human mind, the complex and often confusing landscape of our thoughts and emotions. The labyrinth as the unconscious. In psychology, the labyrinth is a symbol of the unconscious mind. It represents the hidden depths of the psyche, the place where our fears and desires are buried. The labyrinth is a symbol of the journey inward, the confrontation with the darkness that lies within. The Minotaur as the shadow. The Minotaur is a symbol of the shadow, the dark side of the personality. He represents the repressed desires and fears of the human psyche. By confronting the Minotaur, the hero is confronting his own shadow, facing the parts of himself that he has tried to hide. The thread as a symbol of guidance. The thread that Ariadne gives to Theseus is a symbol of guidance, the lifeline that leads us out of the darkness. It is a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a way out. Part 8. The archaeological truth of Knossos. The myth of the labyrinth may have been inspired by the real palace of Knossos, a vast and complex structure that was excavated by Sir Arthur Evans in the early 20th century. The Palace of Knossos. The Palace of Knossos was the center of the Minoan civilization. It was a sprawling complex of over 1,300 rooms, a structure that was so large and complex that it was easy to get lost in its many chambers. The palace was a testament to the power and sophistication of the Minoans, a civilization that had dominated the Aegean for centuries. The labyrinthine structure. The Palace of Knossos was built on multiple levels, with winding corridors, staircases, and courtyards. It was a labyrinthine structure, a place that was designed to confuse and disorient. It is possible that the myth of the labyrinth was inspired by the complexity of the palace. The ancient Greeks may have heard stories of the palace, and they may have imagined a structure that was even more complex and terrifying. The double axe. The Palace of Knossos was decorated with the double axe, a symbol that was sacred to the Minoans. The double axe was known as the Labyrinth, and it is possible that the word labyrinth was derived from this symbol. The Labyrinth was a symbol of power and authority, a reminder of the strength of the Minoan civilization. The presence of the Labyrinth in the palace may have contributed to the myth of the labyrinth, a place that was associated with the power of the king and the mystery of the gods. Part 9. The Legacy of the Labyrinth. The myth of the labyrinth has endured for thousands of years. It is a story that has been told and retold, adapted and reinterpreted by countless generations. Its legacy is a testament to the enduring power of mythology, the power of stories to capture the human imagination. The labyrinth in modern culture. The labyrinth has become a ubiquitous symbol in modern culture. It appears in films, in television shows, in video games, and in literature. It is a symbol of confusion, of difficulty, of the search for meaning in a complex world. The labyrinth is a reminder that life is a journey, a path that is full of twists and turns, dead ends and false starts. The labyrinth as a psychological symbol. In psychology, the labyrinth is a symbol of the unconscious mind. It represents the hidden depths of the psyche, the place where our fears and desires are hidden. The labyrinth is a symbol of the journey inward, the confrontation with the darkness that lies within. The labyrinth as a symbol of redemption. The labyrinth is also a symbol of redemption. It is a place of trial, a place of suffering, but it is also a place of transformation. The hero who enters the labyrinth and emerges victorious is a symbol of the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. The labyrinth is a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is hope. There is always a way out. Part 10. The Lessons of the Minotaur. The story of the Minotaur offers a number of valuable lessons for the modern world. It is a story of courage, determination, and self-sacrifice. It is a story of love, loss, and the tragic consequences of a simple mistake. The danger of hubris. The story of the Minotaur is a warning against hubris, the excessive pride that leads to downfall. King Minos's arrogance, his refusal to honor his promise to Poseidon, is the cause of all the tragedy that follows. His story is a reminder that we must not place ourselves above the gods, that we must respect the limits of our power, the power of courage. The story of the Minotaur is a testament to the power of courage. Theseus's bravery, his willingness to risk his life for his people, is the source of his victory. His story is a reminder that courage is the foundation of all heroism, that we must be willing to face our fears in order to overcome them. The price of betrayal. The story of the Minotaur is a story of betrayal. Ariadne betrays her family for love, and she is abandoned by the man she loves. Theseus betrays Ariadne, and he carries the weight of his guilt for the rest of his life. The story is a reminder that betrayal has consequences, that the choices we make can have a profound impact on the lives of others. Part 11. The enduring power of myth. The myth of the Minotaur is a story that will never be forgotten. It is a story that has been told and retold for thousands of years, and it will continue to be told for thousands of years to come. It is a story that speaks to the deepest fears and desires of the human heart. The Minotaur as a symbol of the human condition. The Minotaur is a symbol of the human condition. He is a creature who is trapped in a maze of his own existence, a being who is struggling to find his way. His story is a reminder that we are all, in some ways, lost in the labyrinth of life, that we are all searching for a way out. The Minotaur as a symbol of hope. The Minotaur is also a symbol of hope. His story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a way out. The thread of Ariadne is a symbol of the hope that guides us through the darkness, the lifeline that leads us home. A final thought. The story of the Minotaur is a story of the human heart. It is a story of love and betrayal, of hope and despair, of triumph and tragedy. It is a story that speaks to the deepest truths of the human experience, a story that will continue to be told for as long as we dream and imagine. As we close this final chapter, let us remember the many faces of the Minotaur. Let us remember the monster, the victim, the symbol, and the tragedy. Let us remember him as a reminder of the darkness that lurks within the human heart, but also as a symbol of the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. Let us remember him as a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a way out. The Minotaur is eternal. He is the monster who will never die, the creature who will never be forgotten. His story is a story of the human condition, a story of the triumphs and the tragedies that define our lives. He is the eternal labyrinth, and his story is our story. And so, the labyrinth falls silent once more. Its winding halls remain hidden beneath the weight of centuries, their secrets carried only by memory and by the stories passed from one generation to the next. The Minotaur has long been remembered as a monster, a terrifying creature lurking in darkness. But after walking through his story tonight, perhaps we leave with a different understanding. Sometimes the greatest tragedies are not born from evil, but from fear, from pride, from promises broken, and from destinies chosen by others. That is why these ancient myths continue to endure, because beneath every legendary beast, there is often a deeply human story waiting to be found. Thank you for joining me beside the fire tonight. Whether you listened to every word or quietly drifted into peaceful dreams somewhere along the journey, I'm grateful we shared this ancient tale together. There are countless forgotten legends still waiting beyond the next mountain, across the next sea, and beneath the next ruined temple. When you're ready, I'll be here to tell them. Until then, rest peacefully. May your dreams be filled with quiet forests, gentle seas, and distant stars guiding your way through the night. And remember, every legend has another side waiting to be heard. Until next time, this has been Mythborn. Good night.